Chapter 531. Qin Shujian floated away. Si Hanhai's move was beyond his expectation. The sea-filling sect had always been low-key. Si Hanhai, the top master of the sea-filling sect, had not made a move for a long time. This time, Si Hanhai, a master who had been silent for a long time, showed up directly. Qin Shujian shook his head and laughed. It seems that my influence is greater than I thought. But I just came to the Eastwind Mansion, and such a master came out to deter me. Is the Eastwind Mansion really so quiet and peaceful? He didn't believe it. None of the prefectures could have true peace. But along the way, Qin Shujian found that there were surprisingly few fights in the Eastwind Mansion. There were occasional fights, but they rarely hurt people's lives. Most of the people who made a move were players, and the local people could be ignored. While he was surprised, Qin Shujian's thoughts drifted to Si Hanhai. He originally thought that in the cultivation world, the strongest was the existence of the third tier of the celestial being. After all, for so many years, there had been no sage realm master who showed his power in front of people. However, Qin Shujian also wondered if there was an old monster who had lived for a long time in any sect. But this guess, it had never been confirmed. Until now, when Qin Shujian met Si Hanhai, he realized that the foundation of the cultivation world was not as shallow as it seemed. Let's not talk about anything else. Si Hanhai was a master of the sage realm. Although he didn't know which tier of the celestial being he was, if his strength was exposed, the sea-filling sect must be one of the top sects in the world. To be honest, if he broke through to the sage realm, Qin Shujian was sure that he would not be so low-key. It's a pity that I can't really make a move, and I can't test Si Hanhai's strength. But the top master of the sea-filling sect doesn't seem to be as aloof as I thought. As Qin Shujian walked, he recalled the scene of the fight just now. First of all, he also confirmed one point. Although he was only in the second tier of the celestial being, with the foundation of the Guiyuan ancestral scripture, even if he was a master of the sage realm, he still had a chance. The only difference was who would win and who would lose. However, Si Hanhai did not really use his full strength, and Qin Shujian also held back. In the battle just now, no one could do anything to the other. What really concerned Qin Shujian, in addition to Si Hanhai's strength, there was also the destructive aura when he attacked. In other words, Si Hanhai must have some unknown secret. Perhaps this had something to do with the fact that the other party had remained silent for so many years. It was just a small matter, but Qin Shujian thought of a lot of things. Interesting. If there is a chance in the future, I can test the strength of the Fu Hai sect. If possible, it might be a good choice to pull the Fu Hai sect into the alliance. Qin Shujian smiled. Si Hanhai's strength was worthy of his attention. At the very least, Si Hanhai was the strongest among the many experts he had met, excluding those from the imperial court. The title of the strongest cultivator in the world of cultivation is still up for debate. But when I break into the Saint Plain, there should be no more debate. In less than half a day, Qin Shujian was already far away from the original city and had crossed several regions. Eastwind Mansion. 3 sides were connected to the Great Zhao, and one side was facing the vast sea. The city that Qin Shujian walked out of before was already close to the sea. Now that he had spent half a day, although he had not yet reached the seaside, he had already felt the familiar aura. That was the aura of the sea. He had also been to the sea in his previous life, but he had never been here in this life. Now that he was about to arrive, Qin Shujian was a little excited. As time went by, in Qin Shujian's perception, there was already the sound of surging waves. An average-sized village appeared in his line of sight. At the entrance of the village, there were also many people coming and going. This place was by the sea. The desire and curiosity of the endless sea would still attract many people. Therefore, in addition to the people in the village, there were more outsiders here. Among these outsiders, there were people from the Eastwind Mansion as well as people from outside. After all, although Eastwind Mansion was an ancient mansion, it did not mean that it had a lot of resources. Instead, as time went by, it was a bit of a remote village. However, this remote village was also relative to other big mansions. But anyway, if it was not necessary, few people would come to Eastwind Mansion unless they wanted to retire. Therefore, they were not people who wanted to retire. 90% of the people who came to East One Mansion came for the vast sea. When Qin Shujian walked to the entrance of the village, a middle-aged man directly greeted him and said enthusiastically, "Sir, I am a villager of this fishing village. You can call me Ali. May I ask if you are going to go to sea? If you are going to sea, I have a good ship here, and the price is not expensive. I guarantee that you will not be disappointed." Qin Shujian did not speak. The middle-aged man, Ali, had already said a lot. His tone was very fast, for fear that others would be impatient, but his speech was very clear and would not be blurred because of the speed. It was obvious that the other party had practiced this very well. Qin Shujian nodded and said, "I am going to sea." "Haha, may I ask your surname?" "Qin. It turns out to be Master Qin. May I ask if Master Qin is going to sea alone, or with several people? How long do you plan to go? If you tell me, I can give you an accurate introduction," Ali said with a smile. In his opinion, Qin Shujian was well-dressed and had an inexplicable temperament. Such a person was either rich or noble. Looking at his calm posture, he was almost sure that he was a strong person who had set foot on the cultivation path. Ali had been in the fishing village for so many years. Although he was also an ordinary person, he thought that he was very accurate in judging people. Qin Shujian said, "I am going alone. As for how long I will be going, it depends on the situation. You can arrange a ship for me here." "Master Qin, are you going alone? Or do you need a helmsman, a deck sailor, and others?" "I can go alone." "Well, Master Qin, please come with me." Ali was shocked and his expression was much more respectful. He went to sea alone without a helmsman or other people's help. If he was not a strong person in the cultivation world, who would have such confidence? Moreover, the other party was not as simple as an ordinary strong person. They walked into the fishing village. Ali introduced everything around as if they were familiar with each other and said, "Master Qin, this should be the first time you have come to the East One Mansion. The most famous thing in our East One Mansion should be the products in the sea. These aquatic products are extremely rare in other places. Only our East One Mansion has them. If Master Qin is interested, you can have a try." Qin Shujian shook his head slightly. Looking at the people passing by, he said, "Are there many outsiders coming to the fishing village every day?" "Yes. After all, although our fishing village is small, it is close to the sea. Many people will choose to stay here temporarily or prepare some materials for the sea." Ali nodded and said, Qin Shujian said, "In my opinion, with so many outsiders, will they break the peace of the fishing village or cause any fights?" In his perception, there was no strong aura hidden in the fishing village. Just like Ali, who was in front of him, was just a strong mortal. The fishing village was so weak. If it encountered some violent cultivators, it would be destroyed in minutes and people would die. Ali was not surprised when he heard this. He said with a smile, "Master Qin, you are not the only one who has asked this question. Although our fishing village is small, it has a background. The sign of the Fu Sea Covering sect has been hung at the entrance of the village. This also shows that our fishing village is protected by the Fu Sea Covering sect. Moreover, there have always been few disputes in our East One Mansion. With the protection of the Fu Sea Covering sect, things like what Master Qin said generally don't happen." The sign of the Fu Sea Covering sect. Qin Shujian recalled that he did see a sign at the entrance of the village. But he knew a little about the Fu Sea Covering sect, but he really didn't know what the sign of the Fu Sea Covering sect was. However, Qin Shujian was confident enough that he didn't need to care about these things. If it were others who came to the East One Mansion, they would not dare to be so presumptuous. No matter how low-key the Fu Sea Covering sect acted, it could not erase its reputation as a top sect. Such a force. Not everyone could be easily offended, because only the existence of the celestial being level means could be called a top sect. The rest did not have this qualification. During the conversation, Ali had taken Qin Shujian to a dock. There were many boats docked at the dock. There were big sails more than 10 feet long and fishing boats less than 10 feet long. When he looked at the boats and cast his gaze into the distance, he only saw a vast sea in front of him. The sea was level with the sky and the earth, as if converging into a line. Many boats were floating in the sea, either going far away or returning. At this time, Ali had walked over to talk to a middle-aged man. After talking for a while, The two men walked over to Qin Shujian. The middle-aged man said first, "Master Qin, what kind of boat do you need?" "That one." Qin Shujian stretched out his hand. It was the smallest fishing boat. Seeing this, the middle-aged man did not show any abnormality. He only explained, "Master Qin, the hull of a fishing boat is relatively fragile. If you want to sail far away, it is easy to have unforeseen events. Moreover, if you encounter too much wind and waves, there is also the danger of sinking the boat." "No matter." Qin Shujian waved his hand and said, "How much silver? Do you want to buy or rent?" "Let's buy it." Qin Shujian replied without hesitation. "Rent my ass." Who knew that he would not come back from here? When the time comes, he would have to come back and withdraw the boat. Was he, Lord Qin, crazy? The middle-aged man's smile became warmer. He said, "If Master Qin wants to buy, just give me 3 taels of silver. After all, the fishing boat. No need to say more." Qin Shujian waved his hand and took out an ingot of silver and threw it over. The middle-aged man said 3 taels, but this ingot of silver was definitely more than 3 taels. Reaching out to take the silver, the middle-aged man said, "Master Qin, please wait a moment. I will give you the change." "Give the extra money to him." Qin Shujian indicated to Ali, who was standing by the side. Hearing this, Ali was instantly overjoyed. He repeatedly thanked, "Thank you, Master Qin, for your reward." Although he had not come into contact with that ingot of silver, but with his many years of experience, he could tell that it was at least 5 taels. 5 taels of silver. After deducting 3 taels of silver for the boat, there was still 2 taels of silver left. For Ali, 2 taels of silver was something that he had to work hard for a long time to earn. The middle-aged man kept the silver and then said warmly, "Master Qin, please follow me." Then, the 3 of them walked towards the pier. The middle-aged man pointed to the dozens of small boats and said, "Master Qin, you can choose any one of them." After saying this, Qin Shujian took a step forward. In the next moment, he had already appeared on one of the small boats. The sudden change. It made the middle-aged man and Ali extremely shocked. Before the 2 of them could react, they saw the rope that tied the small boat silently break. The small boat, as if it was being pushed by countless people, directly broke through the sea and sailed away. In this way, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. This, the middle-aged man stuttered, as if he was stunned by the scene in front of him. He had seen many cultivators, but there was no one who could do what Qin Shujian did. Ali also sighed and said, "Master Qin is really a strong cultivator in the cultivation world. It makes people yearn for him." After sighing with emotion, Ali chuckled again and looked at the middle-aged man. He remembered that there were still 2 taels of silver left on the other party. At this time, there were also many cultivators on the pier. Some people saw Qin Shujian driving the small boat away in the wind and waves, and suddenly some competitiveness rose. They saw that a group of 5 people had originally bought a large boat and had a lot of people on it. Now they drove these people out. The 5 of them activated their vital essence and slowly drove the big boat away from the pier. However, there were also some people who recognized Qin Shujian's identity. Their eyes flashed again and again, and they immediately passed the news out. The news that Qin Shujian had come to the East One Mansion. It was both a secret and not a secret at the same time. For those at the bottom, they naturally couldn't come in contact with such things. But for some powerful cultivators, the arrival of the strongest cultivator in the cultivation world was already known to everyone. The mountains were covered in clouds and mist. Occasionally, red-crowned cranes flew by, and the trees were verdant, presenting a scene like a fairyland. Compared to the quiet and peaceful East One Mansion, this place gave people a kind of tranquility like a paradise. For the people in the East One Mansion, this place was the holy land in their hearts, because this was where the Fu Hai sect was located. As for why the Fu Hai sect didn't establish a sect on the sea but in the mountains, this was unknown. On the peak of the mountains, 2 people sat opposite each other, with a chessboard in the middle, and were playing chess. If Qin Shujian was here, he would find that one of them was Si Han Hai, who he had met before. In the entire Fu Hai sect, only the sect master could sit opposite the strongest cultivator of the Fu Hai sect. the sect master of the Fu Hai sect, Qi Tianqing, while the two were playing chess. The jade talisman at his waist flashed, and Qi Tianqing's movement paused for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "Martial uncle, Qin Shujian has gone to see." "Yes," Si Hanhai said softly and didn't say anything else. While they were talking, the chess pieces were already counted. The two didn't seem to need to think while playing chess. With each passing breath, they could think of many countermeasures. Qi Tianqing said, "Martial uncle, you have fought with Qin Shujian. What do you think of him? His cultivation is profound. If you don't have complete confidence, you can't be his enemy." Si Hanhai pondered for a moment and said. Qi Tianqing looked surprised. "Martial uncle, you can't defeat Qin Shujian with your means?" Others didn't know the truth, but he knew it very well. His martial uncle had broken through to the 4th level of the celestial human realm 1,000 years ago, becoming the first Saint Realm cultivator in the cultivation world. This number 1 was not the number 1 from ancient times to the present. It was the first in the current cultivation world. As for now, although Qi Tianqing didn't know if other sects had hidden Saint Realm cultivators, in his opinion, even if there were, they couldn't be his martial uncle's match. Si Hanhai hadn't shown his strength for many years. But based on his own intuition, Qi Tianqing was sure that his martial uncle's strength was enough to deserve the title of the strongest cultivator in the cultivation world. Si Hanhai said, "Don't underestimate the people in the world. Qin Shujian's reputation is not unfounded. Although he hasn't reached the Saint Realm, his strength is no weaker than a Saint Realm cultivator." The result of this fight was not clear. Although the fishing rod in his hand was broken, it was just an ordinary fishing rod. It couldn't withstand the power of a celestial being. It didn't mean that he lost because the fishing rod was broken. But in Si Hanhai's opinion, Qin Shujian's strength was not to be underestimated. If they really fought, Si Hanhai showed an unfathomable smile and said, "I can see that Qin Shujian didn't come to the East Wind Mansion this time. He might not be here for the East Wind Mansion. Maybe he was just passing by. Since he has gone out to sea, it seems that there is something in the sea that he needs." What could be in the sea that he needs? Qi Tianqing frowned. Although there were many resources in the vast sea, there were also many dangers in the sea. Although the Fu Hai sect was located in the East Wind Mansion, they didn't have much control over the sea. It wasn't that they didn't want to control it, but that they didn't have enough strength to do so. It wasn't just the Fu Hai sect. Even the imperial court had little to do with the sea. But Qi Tianqing was sure that there were no powerful forces in the sea. Otherwise, the Great Zhao wouldn't have been safe for so many years. At most, there were some powerful ferocious beasts and monsters. This was also why the imperial court never cared about the sea. At most, there were some small islands in the sea with some idle forces. Most of them were ferocious beasts and monsters. Ordinary cultivators were at risk of dying when they entered the sea. If it wasn't necessary, no one would enter the sea. Although there were many resources in the sea. But to be honest, in terms of resources, the sea was still lacking compared to the human territory and the endless mountain range. This was also the main reason why the imperial court didn't get involved in the sea. Only the East Wind Mansion, which was close to the sea, would occasionally set foot in the vast sea. But it was just a little bit. It was impossible to go deep into the sea. Si Hanhai shook his head and said, "There are too many unknowns in the sea. Even powerful cultivators may not have the opportunity to set foot in the deepest part of the sea. Maybe there really are some treasures." "Martial uncle, do you think we should make a move? Make a move? Send people to die?" Si Hanhai said lightly, "Don't think too much. If there is any treasure in the sea, it should have been taken by the Fu Hai sect. Since it wasn't taken by the Fu Hai sect, it means that there is no treasure in the sea, or the treasure shouldn't be taken by the Fu Hai sect. If we take it by force, we will suffer the wrath of the heavens." At last, Si Hanhai warned, "Suffering the wrath of the heavens?" Qi Tianqing was skeptical. With his strength, even if there was the wrath of the heavens, it wouldn't be a threat to him. Perhaps only the heavenly punishment from the hell shackles could threaten him. Qi Tianqing thought so, but he didn't refute Si Hanhai. Indeed, there were too many dangers in the endless sea. Ferocious beasts and demonic beasts were secondary. Some dangerous places formed by nature could even kill a celestial being. There used to be many experts who explored the sea. The reason why there were fewer people in recent years was that many experts had died in the sea. Among them, there were even 3 celestial beings among them. The 3 celestial beings entered the sea one after another, but they never came out. They entered the sea and never came out. For many people, this was a death in disguise. Hanhai said, "Send someone to pay attention to the dock. If he comes back from the sea, don't act rashly to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings." Martial nephew understands. Qi Tianqing nodded and said, "They sent people to follow Qin Shujian, but they lost some people. Although there were only 2 casualties, it was still a huge loss for the Fuhai sect. For so many years, the Fuhai sect hadn't lost many people. There were few fights in the entire East Pattern Mansion. As a top sect, no one dared to provoke the Fuhai sect. So there were even fewer fights about the Fuhai sect. And even if there were some fights, they would stop. At most, there would be some injuries. In terms of deaths, there were very few of them. And in the East Pattern Mansion, killing people was a big crime. Generally, other sects would join forces to hunt them down. Even players rarely dared to kill people in the East Pattern Mansion. Most of them killed some monsters and ferocious beasts to level up. They could do this. Not only the Fuhai sect was controlling, but other sects and forces also helped. Therefore, the East Pattern Mansion was peaceful. Now that 2 people from the Fuhai sect died at once, it was no small matter. If it weren't for Qin Shujian's strength, the Fuhai sect and other sects would have already taken action. That is, Qin Shujian's strength was amazing. If there was a conflict, it would cause more deaths and injuries. That was why the sects in the East Pattern Mansion were afraid. After all, the title of the strongest person in the cultivation world was not just for show. Now that he heard that Si Hanhai didn't take down Qin Shujian, Qi Tianqing gave up the idea in his heart. If he couldn't take it, then so be it. As long as Qin Shujian didn't make trouble in the East Pattern Mansion, it would be enough. If he really made trouble in the East Pattern Mansion, he believed that his martial uncle would never sit back and watch. Chapter 532. In the sea. A small boat braved the wind and waves as it sailed into the distance. Qin Shujian stood at the bow of the boat with his hands behind his back. The wind only blew his clothes slightly. Along the way, many boats were overtaken in an instant. Damn, it must be a small electric motor. Driving so fast, it must feel good when it hits. F***CK. Some players who were rowing the boat strenuously looked at the small boat that flew past them. After being stunned for a few seconds, they couldn't help but complain. Compared to the other party, looking at the people who were rowing the boat, it was simply 2 extremes. Although a cultivator could use true essence to drive the boat after breaking through to the true martial realm, but doing so would consume too much true essence, and it wouldn't last long. As for the speed, it might be faster, but it definitely wouldn't be much faster. Like Qin Shujian, who passed by with a whoosh, it was simply blinding their titanium dog eyes. Different from the complaints of the players. Some local cultivators had serious expressions as they looked at the boat that had become a small black dot. They couldn't help but say, "I wonder which expert entered the sea alone to be able to use true essence to drive the boat so fast and ensure that the boat doesn't break. His strength is at least at the prominent divine realm, or even the god martial realm." Prominent divine realm, god martial realm, it's really fascinating. Hearing this, some people also sighed with emotion. In this world, cultivators who could cultivate to such a level were not rare, but there were definitely not many of them. In the past, the appearance of such an expert would attract the attention of many people. On the other side, Qin Shujian had already sailed the boat and completely left the range of the dock. At this moment, he sat on the boat and took out a small tea table from his storage ring. Then, he took out a tea set and placed the osmanthus spirit tea that he had already prepared on the tea table. With a light wave of his sleeve, a small stream of water rose from the sea and gathered towards the teapot. In the process of flying, all the impurities in the water were removed. The entire process, it was completed in less than a breath. Qin Shujian held the teapot in his hand. In less than a breath's time, the tea inside had already boiled. After tossing and turning for a while, Qin Shujian tasted the spirit tea and looked at the surrounding scenery. The sea view was also considered a scenery, so he was in a good mood for a while. As a great cultivator of the Deva realm, he should have been flying. However, Qin Shujian had no intention of flying. Firstly, it was still a problem whether there were islands in the sea. It was fine to fly occasionally, but if one were to fly for 10 days to half a month, even if it would not consume much of one's divine sense, one would still feel nauseous. Therefore, Qin Shujian chose to buy a small boat for his own use. In any case, using true essence to drive the boat would not be much slower than flying in the air. This time, Qin Shujian was prepared for a long voyage when he entered the sea. In his opinion, such a small difference in speed was not a big problem. Moreover, flying in the air isn't as comfortable as I am now. Qin Shujian couldn't help but laugh. Sipping tea and looking at the sea view, wasn't that much better than flying? Even driving a small boat would consume some energy, but for a celestial, multitasking was a trivial matter. Looking at the blue sea surface, Qin Shujian recalled everything about the sea area. From the information he had obtained, the sea area was very large, but no one could give an accurate answer as to how large it was. In addition to that, the dangers in the sea area were no less than in other places. Among all the dangers, there were only two greatest dangers. One was the ferocious beasts, and the other was the forbidden land formed by heaven and earth. The so-called ferocious beasts were actually monsters. They were just called monsters on land and ferocious beasts in the sea. As for how strong the ferocious beasts were, one could refer to the endless mountains for details. And it was different from the endless mountains. All year round, there would be human experts going into the endless mountains to kill some powerful monsters and suppress the development of monsters. But the sea area was different. Almost no human would deliberately enter the sea area to kill some ferocious beasts. After so many years, the sea was not full of ferocious beasts, but there were also many hidden ferocious beasts. Among these ferocious beasts, there were even existences that could threaten celestials. If his strength had not broken through to celestial, Qin Shujian would not dare to set foot here easily. In addition to the ferocious beasts, it was the forbidden land formed by heaven and earth. These forbidden lands were also commonly known as natural disasters. Ordinary natural disasters couldn't threaten celestials, let alone celestials. Even a slightly stronger cultivator couldn't threaten them. But the natural disasters in the sea area were different. Some powerful natural disasters could even make celestials kneel. In general, the sea area was very dangerous. If one was not careful, one would die. The imperial court did not dare to send people to explore the sea area because they could not afford the loss. If too many human experts died here, it would not be a good thing for them. In the past, the human race was threatened by the demon clan. Today, the human race is facing the hidden dangers of the three continents. Before these problems are solved, the human race must preserve enough strength to deal with any possible emergencies. For tens of thousands of years, the sea area has not posed any threat to the human race. Even if there is something here, the imperial court will not easily provoke it. Qin Shujian recalled the rumors about the sea area and the human race, and he had a rough idea in his mind. Humans were born with the impulse to explore and pursue the truth. If there were no external threats, sooner or later, the human race would set foot on the vast sea. But now was not the time. For a long time, there had been a hidden danger lurking in the dark, forcing the human race not to be distracted in dealing with it. It was also because of this that there was not much information about the sea area. As for why Qin Shujian knew that the sea area had not posed a threat to the human race for tens of thousands of years, it was because the information from even further back had already disappeared. The lifespan of a celestial was at most 7,000 years. Tens of thousands of years was enough for many celestials to reach the end of their lifespan. As for the others, it was needless to say that they had died many generations ago. For some things, it was understandable that they would disappear after a long time. Qin Shujian did not have the intention to explore the vast sea area. He just wanted to confirm his guess and see if there was anything in the sea area that he remembered. If this is really the Dongsheng Divine Continent, then Huagua Mountain should exist. Of course, Huagua Mountain might have sunk, or not at all. He wasn't sure if he was right or not. But since he was here, there were some things that he had to clarify. Not to mention exploring the true meaning of the world. Qin Shujian at least wanted to know what kind of world he was in. If possible, he also wanted to know why he was here. He just wanted to know. As for the way back, he did not think of looking for it. Now was good. He was strong, lived for a long time, and had a sect with hundreds of thousands of people. Wherever he went, he was respected. Where else could he find such treatment? The boat cut through the sea. The ripples on the water gradually disappeared after the boat left. Qin Shujian sat on the boat, looking at everything around him leisurely. In fact, his spiritual will had spread out and covered thousands of miles. It was said that there were many ferocious beasts in the sea area. As his spiritual will covered the area, he also found many weak auras. These weak auras were only in front of Qin Shujian. In fact, most of these auras were at the true martial realm. Some of them were at the spirit martial realm. However, Qin Shujian had not gone too deep into the sea. It had only been about half an hour since he had left the dock. Half an hour. Given the speed of the boat, it was enough to travel a few true provinces. It seems that there are indeed many ferocious beasts. If the people of the East Pattern Prefecture were fishing, they would not have gone too deep. As for the sea near the dock, there are no ferocious beasts. Qin Shujian spread out his spiritual perception, paying attention to the changes in his surroundings. There were no ferocious beasts at the dock. He did not need to guess to know that the experts of the Covering Sea sect or the imperial court had exterminated those ferocious beasts. After all, many people in the East Pattern Prefecture relied on the sea to survive. If the sea was full of ferocious beasts, then most of them would starve to death, and their lives would be extremely difficult. However, after traveling for a while, Qin Shujian also discovered a problem. The spirit qi in the sea was much denser than in the East Pattern Prefecture. The spirit qi is so dense. No wonder so many ferocious beasts were born. However, does the density of the spirit qi mean that there are many spirit stones in the sea? Qin Shujian was slightly stunned. Soon, he came back to his senses. Spirit stones. Yes, there were many spirit stones in the sea. Any spirit stones that appeared in the human clan would be collected by the cultivators. The human clan was not involved in the sea, and the ferocious beasts were not very intelligent. Therefore, there must be many spirit stones buried at the bottom of the sea. Otherwise, how could the spirit qi in the sea be denser than in the human clan? There were cultivators in the human clan, and ferocious beasts in the sea. Everyone was rich in spirit qi, so no one was better than the other. Qin Shujian was a little excited as this thought lingered in his mind. This time, he mainly wanted to confirm his guess. However, if he could take the opportunity to fish for some spirit stones, it would be a good thing for him. However, this was just a thought. Qin Shujian did not really take action to search for spirit stones in the sea. Although this place was far away from the dock, it was not too far away. If there were really spirit stones, the human clan might have dug them all out after so many years. He could think of something. Qin Shujian did not think that others could not think of it. Whoever treated the people in the world as fools would be the biggest fool. There's no hurry. When we go deeper into the sea, there might be spirit stones. Although the density of spirit qi is not weak now, it's still far from the level of spirit stones. Suppressing the thoughts in his heart, Qin Shujian drove the boat and continued to sail in the sea. Whoosh! The boat rode the wind and broke the waves, shuttling through the sea like lightning. Boom! The sea in front of them suddenly became turbulent. Powerful fluctuations spread out in all directions, causing the waves to surge as if a tsunami would occur at any time. Qin Shujian put down the teacup and walked to the bow of the boat. He looked at the turbulent sea with his hands behind his back. His expression was as calm as ever. The boat under his feet did not slow down at all. At this time, the waves rose up, and it was more than 10 feet high. Then, it slammed down heavily, causing a terrifying fluctuation. When the surrounding ferocious beasts sensed the fluctuation, they all fled in all directions. At the same time, a series of shocking roars came from the sea. Qin Shujian looked at the sea, and his vision directly penetrated the obstruction of the sea. He just happened to see two tall beasts fighting each other. One was a giant ape-like beast. The other was a giant tortoise. The giant ape stood up, and it was more than 10 feet in size. Every punch stirred up the sea. The tortoise that was fighting with the giant ape had a greenish-black shell, and it was not smaller than the giant ape in size. In its open mouth, there were sharp fangs, and the claws on its limbs were like steel needles. At first glance, it was not a character to be trifled with. Between the two, it was unknown who was looking for trouble. The battle between the two caused a lot of movement in the sea. In Qin Shujian's perception, the strength of the two beasts was probably between the airborne realm and the prominent divine realm, but he was not sure which level they were at. Boom! A huge muffled sound came. The giant ape's fist slammed heavily on the tortoise's shell. The terrifying force did not break the tortoise's shell. Instead, the tortoise bit the giant ape's body, causing a rain of blood. The giant ape was in pain. However, the pain did not make it afraid. Instead, it stimulated the fierceness in its heart. When the tortoise was about to retract its head, its broad palm directly grabbed the tortoise's neck and immediately squeezed hard. A terrifying force erupted, causing the tortoise to suddenly bleed from its 7 orifices. However, the tortoise did not show any weakness. Its sharp claws desperately slashed at the giant ape. Its thick hair and hard skin were easily cut open by the sharp claws, and blood instantly dyed the sea red. The giant ape roared in pain, but it did not let go of the tortoise's neck. Its other hand was madly hammering at the tortoise's head. The two beasts were fighting. Qin Shujian also saw it. It looked like a simple fight, but it was a fatal attack. This was the instinct of living creatures. For these beasts with no intelligence, killing was carried out by instinct in their bloodline. Those instincts. It was deeply engraved in their bloodline by their ancestors who had been fighting day and night. From the beginning of the battle until now, only 10 minutes had passed. Whether it was the giant ape or the tortoise, they had reached the point of life and death. The giant ape's chest was badly mutilated, and one could vaguely see its beating heart. The seawater wanted to pour in, but it was blocked by a mysterious force. As for the tortoise, it was not easy either. The giant ape's strength was incomparably powerful. Its head was badly mutilated, and even its brain juice flowed out. But even so, neither of them intended to stop. This is a beast, more terrifying than the monster beasts in the endless mountain range. If such a beast was thrown in the endless mountain range, it could fight against 3. In the end, Qin Shujian's eyes also became a bit dignified. The strong were afraid of the stupid. The stupid were afraid of the suicidal. These two ferocious beasts gave him the feeling that they didn't care about their lives. If it was the monster beasts, when the battle reached this extent, their instinct would drive them to retreat and return to their nest to lick their wounds. But for the beasts, injuries, on the contrary, aroused their fierceness. Qin Shujian muttered to himself, perhaps the difference between ferocious beasts and demonic beasts isn't just a matter of living in the sea and on land. There's also a difference in biological instincts. Ferocious beasts are much more savage than demonic beasts. In just a short while, the two beasts had reached the point of death. Seeing this, Qin Shujian no longer hesitated. With a move of his divine thought, the terrifying power directly controlled the seawater and turned it into a big hand, pinching the two beasts. The next moment, the two beasts directly exploded. A large amount of blood mist dyed the sea red. 2 fist-sized crystal stones appeared in Qin Shujian's hand, and in the storage ring, there was an additional tortoise shell. Beast core. Qin Shujian smiled slightly. The two beasts contributed 2 beast cores, which could be considered a gain. The reason why he made a move. It was purely to harvest the source of life. After all, the two beasts were going to die no matter how one looked at it. It was better to die in his hands. To be honest, at Qin Shujian's level, it was rare for him to hunt ferocious beasts and demonic beasts, because there was no need for that. For him, every level up now required at least tens of billions of life sources, unless it was a celestial. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would have to kill tens of millions of beasts of other levels to have a chance to raise his strength. However, there are no human cultivators in the sea. They are all beasts without intelligence. Maybe I can take this opportunity to harvest a wave of life sources. Qin Shujian thought for a moment, and a smile appeared on his face. Normally, killing ferocious beasts would not yield much life force. However, if he used the Red Lotus of Delusion, he would be able to obtain more life force. Putting away the two beast cores, Qin Shujian also moved the tortoise shell in the storage ring slightly. The tortoise shell that was 10 feet long, which was the storage ring he was using now, belonged to Du Chengwu of the Fallen Moon Mansion. Otherwise, it would not be able to put such a big thing. He put away the tortoise shell. This was because the tortoise shell itself was a high-grade material. Coupled with its huge size, its value was not much lower than that of ordinary 9th-grade materials. Now, more than half of the Yuan sect had been emptied. It was always good to be able to replenish some. After casually killing the two beasts, the smell of blood spread out and attracted many beasts. However, Qin Shujian had already left his original position. The sea was vast. Now, he was not really deep in the sea. Although Qin Shujian seemed to be traveling aimlessly now, with his celestial perception, he had already formed a navigation route in his mind. Because the sea had not been explored much by the human race, there were no navigation routes sold in the Great Zhao. Even if there were, it would be some sea areas close to the human race. These navigation routes were not of much use to Qin Shujian. This world should have a square sky and a square earth. In other words, if I keep moving forward, I will only reach the end of the world and will not turn back to the human race's territory. In that case, if I want to explore the entire sea, I will have to go back and forth a few times. The divine senses of a celestial were powerful, but compared to the sea, it was just a drop in the ocean. Now, according to Qin Shujian's point of view, it was a straight line forward. Instead, his divine senses spread out thousands of miles and constantly searched ahead. In other words, the straight line that Qin Shujian was walking was thousands of miles wide. Whoosh! The small boat cut through the sky and the waves at an extremely fast speed. Unlike the calm sea in front, the sea where Qin Shujian was now was full of beasts killing each other. From time to time, waves would be set off. The smell of blood mixed with the smell of the sea water made people frown. With the appearance of the small boat, some of the ferocious beasts that were fighting stopped in an instant and chased after Qin Shujian. However, the speed of these beasts, compared to the speed of the small boat, they were much slower. By the time they reacted, the small boat was only a black dot. Boom! A huge wave of thousands of feet suddenly rose, as if covering the sky and the sun, and smashed down heavily on the small boat. Qin Shujian waved his sleeves, and a terrifying aura spread out, turning into an indestructible air wall that blocked the crashing wave. The weight of thousands of feet of seawater was more than 1,000,000 catties. But even so, it could not do anything to the air wall at all. Disperse! Qin Shujian waved his hand again, and the crashing wave crashed back to its original position. Rumble! A terrifying fluctuation spread out. Roar! With an angry roar, a giant beast thousands of feet suddenly appeared from the bottom of the sea. It was an octopus that had been magnified countless times. Then, a black shadow rose from the bottom of the sea, setting off a large number of waves. The next moment, the black shadow covered the small boat, and the sky darkened in an instant. Qin Shujian put away the small boat with one hand, and then his body expanded to 3,000 feet in size, and he grabbed the falling black shadow with one hand. It was a tentacle thousands of feet long and hundreds of feet thick, and the force of its fall could easily destroy a mountain range. But this force had no effect in front of Qin Shujian. Grabbing the tentacle with one hand, Qin Shujian pulled hard, and the giant beast was directly pulled out of the sea by him, and then smashed heavily on the surface of the sea. Qin Shujian took a step forward, and a mysterious force emerged from the seawater under his feet, supporting his body from sinking. His fist had already shattered the void and landed heavily on the octopus body. One punch. A bloody mist exploded from the octopus body, and dark green blood dyed the sea. Roar! The octopus roared in pain, and countless huge tentacles frantically wrapped around Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian grabbed several tentacles with both hands, and then pulled hard. Suddenly, these tentacles were torn in two, and the intense pain caused the other tentacles of the octopus to twist irregularly. And he took this opportunity to continue to attack the other party. A great battle. In the blink of an eye, it erupted. That terrifying force spread out, and some of the beasts that wanted to approach instinctively scattered at this time. Whether it was Qin Shujian or not, or the aura of the giant octopus, it was not something these beasts could withstand. Although the beasts did not have intelligence, they still knew when to fight and when to turn around and run. Speaking of seeking luck and avoiding disaster, the beasts were better at this than some humans. Chapter 533. Boom, boom. The waves surged into the sky and then crashed down heavily. Even more seawater flowed to an unknown location in the shattered space. A great battle broke out, stirring up the sea. That huge octopus had no power to fight back in front of Qin Shujian. All the attacking tentacles were pulled off by him. A large amount of blood sprayed out, dyeing the blue seawater with a different color. Die! Another fist smashed down, and the octopus's head cracked. Finally, this beast was scared and wanted to escape to the bottom of the sea. However, there was no way Qin Shujian would let a divine-level beast escape. He spread out his divine thought, and a large formation directly covered the octopus. Immediately, the red lotus of purgation ignited and devoured the octopus in its shrill screams. Soon, a red lotus appeared in the void. Qin Shujian swallowed the red lotus, and a pure energy surged out. Originally, he had opened 512 star acupoints, but now, under the impact of this energy, 2 of his star acupoints trembled as they opened. The formation was removed. The boat was taken out from the storage ring. Qin Shujian leaped onto the boat, and the boat once again broke through the waves. In the boat, Qin Shujian sat there and checked the condition of his body. After devouring the divine-level octopus, he obtained 100 million life force. In addition, he also indirectly opened 2 star acupoints. Compared to the harvest of 100 million life force, the opening of 2 star acupoints made Qin Shujian even happier. It seems that after becoming a divine-level beast, the red lotus of purgation can refine more power. In the past, the demonic beasts refined by the red lotus of purgation did not contain much power. If he were to refine a ferocious beast that was roughly at the first layer of the sky-human realm, he would be able to open up 2 star acupoints. In the past, he would at least be able to reach the pinnacle of a certain level. The Wisdom King Hellfire of the spiritual martial realm absorbed a very small part of the power. The red lotus of purgation of the divine martial realm absorbed some power from the divine-level beast. Now that it has become a divine-level beast, the power that the red lotus of purgation can absorb has become more powerful. Qin Shujian estimated that the power that the red lotus of purgation refined just now was at least 1/10 of the original power of the divine-level beast. Don't underestimate 1/10 of the power. If he had refined such a strong power when he was in the spiritual martial realm, the power of the moon-devouring monster king would have been enough to make him explode. A beast at the first level of the sky-human stage can open up 2 insight acupoints. If I kill a few more, I might be able to open up a few more insight acupoints. It might even be possible for me to reach the 3rd level of the sky-human stage. Qin Shujian's eyes lit up. He did not mean to underestimate 2 acupoints, because the more acupoints, the more acupoints, the more acupoints. And the powerful divine-level beasts in the sea area were far beyond his expectation. How long had he been in the sea area? In less than half a day, he was attacked by a divine-level octopus. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, now he was not in the depths of the sea area. He was still in the periphery, but even so, he could still encounter a divine-level beast. While feeling happy, Qin Shujian was also surprised by the danger of the sea area. Divine-level beasts. I don't think there have been any divine-level beasts in the mountains of infinity. This alone makes the divine-level beasts much more powerful than the divine-level beasts. I'm still in the periphery and I've already encountered a divine-level octopus. If I go deeper, I may encounter divine-level or divine-level beasts. It seems that the sea area is more dangerous than I thought. With his current strength, he could kill divine-level beasts below the 4th level of the celestial realm. As for divine-level beasts, if they were not at the peak of the saint realm, he was confident to kill them if he used all his means. As for divine-level beasts, Qin Shujian silently thought about the probability of him escaping. Divine-level beasts had no intelligence. This was an advantage. Qin Shujian discovered this from the big octopus just now. Even if they broke through to the divine level, the intelligence of these divine-level beasts did not increase much. His thoughts were running wildly. Qin Shujian quickly made a decision: keep hunting divine-level beasts along the way, and try to improve my realm as much as possible. If I encounter divine-level beasts below the 4th level, I'll kill them with all my strength. As for the divine-level beasts, the first thing to do is to run. He looked at his storage ring. Finding that it was poor, he felt helpless. However, he did notice a bow and arrow placed in the corner. The storage ring flashed. There was an extra bow and arrow on the ship. I'm suffocating. As soon as the Cosmos bow appeared, it let out a comfortable cry. Qin Shujian's face darkened, and he shouted, "Shut up! If you scream again, I'll put you back immediately." No. The Cosmos bow said hurriedly. "Put it back." Thinking of the darkness in the storage ring, the Cosmos bow felt that it was going crazy. The cloud-piercing arrow was good. Although it had intelligence, it was not much. For a Tao artifact like the Cosmos bow, which was no different from an ordinary person, to be trapped in the storage ring was really unacceptable. After saying that, the Cosmos bow also noticed the surrounding environment and said, "Sect Master, this is the sea area? You know?" Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows slightly, took a sip of spirit tea, and said, after dealing with the big octopus, he did not suffer any injuries. With Qin Shujian's current strength, it was no problem for him to beat up a divine level 1 or 2. He could also suppress a divine level 3. Only a divine level 4 was qualified to fight with him. The Cosmos bow said, "I also have a little memory of the sea area, but not much." "Tell me," Qin Shujian said. He also wanted to know how much the Cosmos bow knew about the sea area. This time, he headed to the sea area. Qin Shujian did not bring many Tao artifacts with him. He was wearing the dustless immortal robe, the 13th grade golden lotus, the Cosmos bow, and the cloud-piercing arrow. Even the 1,000 mountain blood, which he had always liked to use, was left in the sect as a precaution. There were only 2 reasons for bringing the Cosmos bow. One was that the other party was already a 5-seal Tao artifact. Together with the cloud-piercing arrow, it was comparable to a 6-seal Tao artifact. The other was that the other party had profound knowledge. Although in Qin Shujian's opinion, the Cosmos bow's knowledge might not be correct, but at least it was good to have a reference. At this moment, after hearing the Cosmos bow's words, he knew that he was right to bring it out. At least this Cosmos bow really knew about the existence of the sea area. The Cosmos bow said, "I remember that when heaven and earth were born, there didn't seem to be a sea area. Then, there seemed to be a ray of light, and then a sea area appeared in the world." "What light?" Qin Shujian asked. "A ray of light? What kind of light was that?" According to what the Cosmos bow said, heaven and earth were only land in the beginning. The Cosmos bow said, "I don't know what light it is, but since the sea area appeared, there has been a mysterious force lingering there, which has given birth to many terrifying beasts. Sect Master, there are many beasts in the sea area, and there are even many at the celestial being level. If you want to go deep into the sea area, you have to be careful. The combat power of the beasts is not much worse than that of the human race." The Cosmos bow's tone was solemn. In this regard, Qin Shujian didn't say anything. He wouldn't show off and tell the other party that he had just killed a celestial being level octopus. Showing off to a bow, Qin Shujian felt a little bored. "What else?" After the Cosmos bow finished speaking, Qin Shujian asked. He really wanted to say, "That's it? That's your understanding of the sea area. What's the difference between saying it and not saying it? Who doesn't know how dangerous the beasts in the sea area are?" Except for the first sentence that he didn't know whether it was true or not, everything else was nonsense. The Cosmos bow said, "Sect Master, the sea area has always been mysterious. I've never been to the sea area. It's not easy to know so much. Then forget it. You'd better go back. By the way, there's one more thing that I thought of. Seeing that Qin Shujian was about to take it back, the Cosmos Bao was scared out of its wits. Going back again. If it wasn't for the fact that it couldn't refuse Qin Shujian, it would rather stay in the forbidden area and cultivate. Although there was no one in the forbidden area, at least it could see the surrounding scenery. Qin Shujian stopped what he was doing and said, "What else?" In addition to the beasts in the sea area, there are also some natural disasters. Sect Master, don't underestimate the natural disasters. There is a mysterious force in the sea area that causes the natural disasters here. They are not real natural disasters. The Cosmos Bao finished in one breath. Qin Shujian stopped what he was doing. He picked up the teacup and said calmly, "What do you mean by not real natural disasters?" In his opinion, the Cosmos Bao was really cheap. It didn't know how to speak properly. It had to be forced to know what to say. It was not a real natural disaster. He also wanted to know more about it. After all, the natural disasters in the sea area were enough to threaten celestial beings. This was unusual in itself. The Cosmos Bao said, different from the natural disasters in other places, there is a mysterious force in the sea area. This force intercepts the marks left by the strong in the world, and then turns them into natural disasters. Intercepts the marks left by the strong in the world. What does this mean? Qin Shujian seemed to understand something. He could roughly understand the Cosmos Bao's words, but he didn't understand it completely. In other words, once the strong in the sea area fight, some of the strong moves will be intercepted by the sea area and then become natural disasters in the future. And such natural disasters, to put it bluntly, are the traces left by the strong in the past. Understood. Understood completely. After hearing what the Cosmos Bao said, Qin Shujian finally understood the cause of the natural disasters in the sea area. Ordinary natural disasters couldn't threaten celestial beings. Not to mention celestial beings, even some powerful real martial arts realm couldn't be threatened by natural disasters. But the natural disasters in the sea area could even threaten celestial beings. This was unusual in itself. According to what the Cosmos Bao said, many things made sense. Natural disasters were actually not natural disasters. Instead, the sea area completely showed the scene of the strong in the past. In other words, if a strong in the god martial arts realm made a move, then the mark of power was intercepted by the sea area and then shown in the form of a natural disaster. Then some practitioners in the spirit martial arts realm and real martial arts realm would have no way to survive when encountering such a natural disaster, because what they encountered was not an ordinary natural disaster. It was equivalent to a great practitioner in the god martial arts realm. What is the strongest and weakest natural disaster in the sea area? Or will anyone's move be recorded by the sea area? Qin Shujian asked. The Cosmos Bao didn't know about this. Hearing this, Qin Shujian didn't continue to ask. The fact that the Cosmos Bao could know this information was also very useful to him. At least, he understood how the natural disasters came about. Intercepting the mark of a strong person was an incredible thing in itself. It was okay for ordinary practitioners. But once the mark of a strong practitioner in the celestial being level was intercepted and then shown by the sea area, it would be a disaster for other practitioners. How strong was the power of a celestial being? Qin Shujian knew very well. Even the weakest celestial being could easily kill an ordinary practitioner in the god martial arts realm. Immediately, Qin Shujian thought of another possibility, and his face suddenly became serious. The power of a practitioner in the celestial being level could threaten the strong practitioners below the celestial being level. But if there were powerful practitioners fighting in the sea area, the natural disasters formed would also be destructive to the celestial being. According to the information collected, there were no strong practitioners in the human clan who stepped into the sea area, let alone powerful practitioners who had been there. But it didn't mean that there were no records of it in the past. What if there were powerful practitioners fighting in the sea area tens of thousands of years ago, or hundreds of thousands of years ago? No one could say for sure. Qin Shujian knew that even if he encountered a natural disaster of this level, he would have to kneel down. Wait, Qin Shujian said, is it only when practitioners fight that the power mark will be intercepted? If the fierce beasts fight, will the mark also be intercepted? It, it shouldn't be. The Cosmos Bao said with uncertainty. Qin Shujian's face suddenly darkened. There weren't many human clan practitioners in the sea area, but there were a lot of fierce beasts. And the fierce beasts fought all year round. If heaven and earth could really intercept the power mark of fierce beasts, then the fierce beasts in the sea area were much more terrifying than he imagined. There were already celestial being level octopuses in the outer area. In the inner area and even in the depths of the sea area, if there were no powerful beasts, Qin Shujian would cut off his head. If that was the case, the frequency of natural disasters was a bit high. Soon, Qin Shujian muttered to himself, that shouldn't be the case. If it's really possible to intercept the power of the ferocious beasts, the sea should be full of natural disasters. How could it be so peaceful after so long? But no one is sure how often natural disasters form. What if the frequency is very low? Qin Shujian was a little confused. But he quickly calmed down. Natural disasters were natural disasters. With his strength, as long as it wasn't a mighty level natural disaster, then everything was fine. If it was a mighty level natural disaster, Qin Shujian looked at the 13-grade golden lotus in the storage ring and made up his mind. He still had this defensive treasure with him. He couldn't beat it. It shouldn't be a problem to escape. That's not right. Qin Shujian looked solemn and looked at the calm sea area. There was nothing there. Why is it that after I came to the sea area, the first thing I thought of was to escape? Although I was afraid of death, I wasn't afraid of death to this extent in the past. Could it be that there are other forces in the sea area that are affecting people's hearts little by little? Or is this my instinct? As soon as the last thought emerged, it was extinguished by Qin Shujian. He knew that he was afraid of death, but he was a heavenly man after all, so he still had the confidence. He abandoned the possibility of being afraid of death. In other words, there was another force in the sea area that was subtly affecting people's hearts, making people afraid and even terrified of this place. Qin Shujian took a deep breath. It can even affect the thoughts of heavenly men. This sea area is too strange. At the thought of this, the fear in his heart emerged again. But as soon as it emerged, it was forcibly suppressed by Qin Shujian. The sea area is too mysterious, but the more mysterious it is, it means that there are things that others don't know. As the saying goes, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. Since I've already gone to sea, I can't go back with my tail between my legs. Let's go a little further and see the situation first. Qin Shujian calmed his mind and steered the boat forward. Escape. How could he, Sect Master Qin, be afraid before fighting? If he wanted to escape, he should at least see something that could threaten his life. Now there was nothing. If he turned around and left, he would lose face as Sect Master Qin. As the boat sailed, they encountered many fierce beasts along the way. The weak ones were at least above the 5th level of the martial realm, and the strong ones even reached the god martial realm. For this, Qin Shujian took action and swallowed all the fierce beasts in the god martial realm with the red lotus of purgation. When he swallowed 20 fierce beasts in the god martial realm, another star acupoint was forcibly opened by the force. Combined with his previous gains, he now had a total of 515 stellar acupoints. After going out to the sea area, in less than a day, he opened 3-star acupoints. Qin Shujian was very satisfied with this gain. As time went by, the golden crow had already fallen. Looking at the setting sun, Qin Shujian said, "Do you know where the golden crow will go after it falls?" He was asking about the bow of heaven and earth. Qin Shujian had never thought about this question before. For his previous life, there was a reasonable explanation for the rising and setting of the sun. As for this life, no one had any doubts about the rising and setting of the sun. But here came the question. Now the sky was round and the earth was round. Then where would the golden crow go after it fell? Looking at the falling sun and the sea area reflected by the sun, a thought suddenly came to Qin Shujian's mind. When the sun set, would it be the end of the sea area? On the other side, the bow of heaven and earth said, "I'm not sure where the sun and moon will fall, but looking at the situation, the sun should fall in the depths of the sea area." Qin Shujian nodded slightly. The bow of heaven and earth happened to agree with him. Suddenly, Qin Shujian had the idea of going to the depths of the sea area to have a look. If the sun was really hiding in the sea area, then the secret would be big. At night, Qin Shujian didn't drive the boat with all his strength, but let it drift on the sea. Just like the sea during the day, the sea at night was also full of danger. Some beasts were active during the day, and some were active at night. As they went deeper into the sea, the beasts didn't seem to stop fighting for a moment. Now the sea surface. It was no longer the original blue, but a faint blood red. As for the source of the blood red, it was the blood of the beasts. Qin Shujian was sitting in the boat, sipping spiritual tea while looking at the moon in the distant night sky. No one knew what he was thinking about. As for the bow of heaven and earth, it didn't do anything for it. As long as it wasn't locked in the storage ring, other problems wouldn't be a problem. The waves rose as if to drown the boat. However, before the waves reached the boat, they were forcibly suppressed by an invisible force. A beast of more than 100 feet jumped up, opened its bloody mouth, and was about to swallow the boat. Qin Shujian didn't need to say anything. The bow of heaven and earth shot out a spiritual arrow, which instantly pierced through the beast. The beast that had jumped up lost its vitality and fell heavily to the sea surface. Soon, it sank to the bottom of the sea. Qin Shujian didn't look away from the moon from beginning to end. A beast of the spirit martial arts realm, he didn't take it seriously at all. With the power of the bow of heaven and earth, not to mention the spirit martial arts realm, even a beast of the god martial arts realm could be easily killed. This was the power of a 5-seal Taoist weapon. Even without the owner's control, the Taoist weapon could suppress enemies below the celestial being realm with its own power. The night passed quickly. In an instant, the sun rose again. It was worth mentioning. The sun in this world was different from what he knew in his previous life. It didn't rise in the east and set in the west. Instead, it would fall from the side it rose from. Qin Shujian didn't pay much attention to this vision before. In addition, he didn't have a strong sense of direction, so sometimes he just thought he saw it wrong. But it was different now. Yesterday, he saw the sun set with his own eyes. Today, he saw the sun rise with his own eyes. It set and rose in the same place. There were a lot of things that could be explained. At the same time, heaven and earth shook. A hurricane rose from the sea surface, connecting heaven and earth. Some beasts fled one after another, and some were rolled up by the hurricane and then torn to pieces by the power inside. Natural disaster. When they saw the hurricane, Qin Shujian and the bow of heaven and earth both had the same thought. After a day and a night in the sea area, they finally encountered a natural disaster in the sea area that made people tremble in fear. Qin Shujian stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the raging hurricane. His eyes flickered. This is a natural disaster. The bow of heaven and earth said, "That's right. There should be a powerhouse's power mark in the depths of the hurricane. Secmaster, you still have to be careful." Be careful. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. He did have to be careful. But he looked at the natural disaster in front of him and felt that the power contained in it was a little weak. At least, it didn't pose any threat to him. In an instant, Qin Shujian could be sure that even if there was a powerhouse's mark in the hurricane, the person who left the mark wouldn't be too strong. It's a good opportunity to see how powerful the natural disaster in the sea area is. Qin Shujian held the bow of heaven and earth in one hand, looked at the hurricane and pulled the bowstring. Boom! Chapter 534. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered crazily. The condensed arrow had been placed on the bow. Then, the fingers that were holding the bowstring loosened. The spiritual arrow shattered the void and directly bombarded the hurricane. Boom! The hurricane seemed to feel the threat. A sharp blade light slashed out from it and collided with the spiritual arrow. However, the blade light couldn't withstand a single blow in front of the spiritual arrow. It didn't even hold for a breath. The blade light was directly shattered by the spiritual arrow. Immediately, the spiritual arrow disappeared into the hurricane. The next moment, the hurricane exploded. A powerful force burst out chaotically. Heaven and earth suddenly calmed down. Qin Shujian lowered his arm and said, "If I'm not mistaken, The blade light slashed out from the hurricane should be a mark left by an expert. It should be. The bow of heaven and earth replied. Seeing this, Qin Shujian also pondered. If he hadn't encountered a natural disaster, he wouldn't have realized that the natural disasters in the sea area were like this. The power of the blade light was not small. If an ordinary warrior in the spirit martial realm encountered it, he might be killed. All of a sudden, Qin Shujian found another problem. During this period of time in the sea area, he had made a lot of moves. Maybe there would be a natural disaster in the future. What was hidden in it was his own power mark. He knew his own business. If it really formed his natural disaster, Qin Shujian could guarantee that except for the celestial being, anyone who encountered it would die. No, I have also used the red lotus of purgation in the sea area. Will the red lotus of purgation reappear in the future? Qin Shujian's expression changed slightly. After thinking about it, he also calmed down the fluctuations in his mind. It was true that the red lotus of delusion was his trump card. But if the natural disaster reappeared, no one would know that it was his, Qin Shujian's thing. After all, so many people entered the sea area. Maybe it would also absorb the power mark of the fierce beasts. Then, Qin Shujian put the bow of heaven and earth aside and then sat back in his seat. He had already encountered the natural disaster. He had also encountered the fierce beasts at the celestial being level. Less than 2 days after entering the sea, they had already encountered many dangers. These dangers were not a big problem for Qin Shujian, but they were fatal for ordinary cultivators. Not to mention anything else. Just the ferocious beasts that could be seen everywhere in the sea were enough to make people extremely fearful. No wonder people are so wary of the sea region. Qin Shujian sipped his tea and didn't pay much attention to it. With his strength, as long as it wasn't at the almighty level, everything would be fine. If it wasn't almighty, he would just retreat. Regarding this, Qin Shujian was certain that this thought of retreating was not influenced by the power of the sea, but was the truest thought in his heart. Sailing on the sea. Many people who were fully equipped with large ships could only stop at the periphery of the sea. Even if there were experts on the ship, it would still be the same. That was because the risk of going deep into the sea was too great. Even ordinary celestials weren't sure if they could make it through unscathed. Half a month. In the inner region of the sea where the human race had stopped, a small boat was trembling as it drifted along with the sea. After half a month, Qin Shujian had successfully gone deep into the inner region of the sea. Here he was. He didn't dare to be as wild as he was in the outer region, directly driving the boat and rampaging. Because in the inner region of the sea, there were more ferocious beasts and they were more powerful. During this period of time, Qin Shujian had personally killed as many as hundreds of ferocious beasts. 80 to 90% of them were in the god martial arts realm, and the remaining 10% were all in the celestial being realm. Some giant octopus, some water ape. There were also some strange ferocious beasts. These ferocious beasts were at least in the first level of the celestial being realm, and the stronger ones had reached the third level of the celestial being realm. In the face of the beasts at the third level of the celestial being realm, Qin Shujian had to put in a lot of effort to kill them. But hard work was hard. The harvest was not small at all. Not to mention the life source. The 13 celestial being realm ferocious beasts contributed 5 billion life source to him. Judging from Qin Shujian's current realm, 5 billion life source could only be said to be a drop in the bucket. If he wanted to save enough life source for a breakthrough, it was still dozens of times worse. What really satisfied Qin Shujian? It was the energy devoured after killing the ferocious beasts that allowed him to open 50 acupoints. Combined with the original 515 acupoints, now that he had opened another 50 acupoints, the number of star acupoints directly reached 565. 720 star acupoints was the second level of the celestial being realm. Now that the number of star acupoints had reached 565, Qin Shujian could be considered to have stepped into the middle of the second level of the celestial being realm. In his opinion, after a trip to the sea, even if he didn't find what he wanted, breaking through to the third level of the celestial being realm shouldn't be a problem. In the sea, there are indeed many treasures and opportunities everywhere. Qin Shujian looked at the calm surface of the sea and sighed with emotion. For others, the sea was full of danger, and there were no opportunities to speak of. Even if there were some resources and treasures, it was not proportional to the risk. Qin Shujian was different. He had the red lotus of purgation. What he wanted was these ferocious beasts for him to refine. If he could stay in the sea for a longer time, Qin Shujian was confident that he could improve by a few levels, even if he didn't cultivate the Guiyuan ancestral classic to perfection. Thinking of the benefits of the sea, Qin Shujian shook his head. It's a pity that I can't stay in the sea for long. There might be greater opportunities waiting for me in the 3 continents. I can't give up now. Otherwise, all the effort I spent before will be wasted. Moreover, Qin Shujian could feel that there was a bloody color lingering on his body. This bloody color was not visible to the naked eye. It could only be seen with the spiritual god after reaching a certain level. In the beginning, Qin Shujian still didn't know what this bloody color was. However, as he killed more and more ferocious beasts, the bloody color became more and more intense. Only then did he understand where the bloody color came from. Every time he killed a ferocious beast, a trace of bloody color would be added to his body. There were pros and cons to the bloody color's existence. In at least half a month, Qin Shujian figured out some of the bloody color's functions. Some of the weaker ferocious beasts fled in panic when they sensed the bloody color on his body, as if they had met their natural enemy. Some of the more powerful ferocious beasts, when they sensed the bloody color, it was as if they had been injected with hormones and charged at him in a frenzy. This was also the reason why Qin Shujian could encounter more than a dozen heavenly human ferocious beasts in just half a month. The bloody color lingering on his body, it accounted for most of the credit. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, even if he went deep into the inner area, he would at most encounter 3 to 5 heavenly human ferocious beasts in half a month. It was impossible to encounter more than a dozen of them. If the inner area of the sea was really filled with heavenly human ferocious beasts, that was the power of the sea. It was completely incomparable to the human race. Putting aside the human race, even if the human race and the demon race were to join forces, they would not be able to defeat the sea. Even if the sea's ferocious beasts were not intelligent and did not leave the sea, if the sea's power was really terrifying, the human race and the demon race would not sit back and watch this malignant tumor grow. The sea is very powerful, but it won't be filled with heavenly human ferocious beasts. They are all attracted by the bloody aura on my body. If this ability is used properly, even if I sit here and do nothing, there will be endless ferocious beasts coming to my door. However, if the bloody aura is too rich, it might attract even more powerful ferocious beasts. If it attracts those above level 7 heavenly human, it will be troublesome. Qin Shujian's eyes flickered. He had not thought of a way to quickly eliminate the bloody aura for the time being. What he could do now was to constantly use his spiritual energy to grind away the bloody aura bit by bit. However, the speed of this grinding was too slow. Other things aside, judging from the current blood qi, it would take a few months for it to be completely eliminated. Not to mention, ferocious beasts could attack the sea at any time. By then, the bloody aura would increase instead of decreasing. There was no possibility of eliminating it. Therefore, to Qin Shujian, the bloody aura was a double-edged sword. If he used it well, it would be of great benefit to him. However, the drawbacks were also obvious. Once he attracted ferocious beasts above level 7 heavenly human, he would have to kneel. Let's take it one step at a time. If the bloody aura is really too rich, then I can only go back first, or try not to enter the deepest part of the sea to avoid causing trouble. Qin Shujian already had an idea in his mind. Ferocious beasts above level 7 heavenly human should stay in the deepest part of the sea, because the spiritual energy there was even more intense. After going deep into the sea for a long time, Qin Shujian also found a problem. That was, the spiritual energy in the sea was like a huge whirlpool. The depths of the sea were like the center of the whirlpool. The spiritual energy gathered there was the most, and the spiritual energy outside the sea was the shallowest. The deeper he went, the more spiritual energy there was. Although Qin Shujian was only in the inner part of the sea, The spiritual energy here was already 1/5 of the main sect. Don't underestimate the concentration of 1/5 of the spiritual energy. In the main sect, Qin Shu Jian buried dozens of spiritual stones, and there was a huge formation to gather the spiritual energy. All the spiritual energy gathered in a mountain, so that it could be so rich. Now the sea was vast and boundless. At least in Qin Shujian's perception, he couldn't detect the boundary. In this way, the concentration of spiritual energy in the sea was very terrifying. Apart from the ferocious beasts, Qin Shujian had also encountered several natural disasters during this period of time. At that time, he really refreshed his understanding of natural disasters, because some natural disasters were like hurricanes, connecting heaven and earth. Some of the catastrophes directly manifested as illusory figures, and then crazily slaughtered the surrounding living beings. Among them, there was one. Qin Shujian saw countless blades spread out, and each blade had the power of the god martial arts realm. It killed all the ferocious beasts in the surrounding sea, dyeing the sea red. It was not so much a natural disaster. It was better to reproduce the means of the strong in the past. So, Qin Shujian walked more cautiously in the sea. The boat drifted with the waves. Although his speed wasn't slow, it was still much slower than the speed he had used back then, where he could travel 100 miles in an instant. A ferocious beast jumped up from the sea and then pounced on him. Qin Shujian stretched out his hand and formed a palm force that was hundreds of feet long, directly pinching the ferocious beast. The terrifying power made the ferocious beast of the god martial arts realm explode, and it was seriously injured and dying. Then the red lotus of purgation flew out and devoured the ferocious beast. Then, Qin Shujian stretched out his hand again, and a red lotus fell into his hand, and he devoured the power inside. His body shook slightly. The half-opened acupoints happened to be opened in front of this energy. Suddenly, the 565 stellar acupoints had turned into 566 in an instant. The bow of heaven and earth hurriedly said, 666, congratulations on the great achievement of the divine skill. It's still early to reach the great achievement of the divine skill. It's just some gains. Qin Shujian smiled and said modestly. The bow of heaven and earth said, with the sect master's talent, the day of great achievement of the divine skill is not far away. I'm just congratulating you in advance. Haha. Qin Shujian laughed heartily. During this period of time, the bow of heaven and earth's words were getting better and better. In the sea area for half a month, thanks to the other party's chat, it was not too boring. At this moment, Qin Shujian's expression suddenly changed, and he stood up directly from his seat, looking ahead. There was a small black spot. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was a black spot or nothing. But in Qin Shujian's eyes, the black spot was an island. The bow of heaven and earth also noticed Qin Shujian's strange phenomenon. An island? It should be an island. Qin Shujian took a deep breath and said, an island. He had been in the sea area for more than half a month, and he had not encountered any islands. Qin Shujian thought that there might not be any islands in the sea area. After all, there were so many beasts and humans gathered together, and their own qi and blood were also a big target. If there really was an island, once there were too many living creatures, it would definitely attract the attacks of the beasts. The beasts were the most sensitive to qi and blood. The beast's cultivation method, in addition to inhaling and exhaling spiritual qi, was to devour powerful qi and blood to transform themselves. Suddenly, an island appeared in front of him. To be honest, Qin Shujian was a little stunned. How confident was he? That was why he dared to own an island in the inner area of the sea area. He had already sensed the aura of many living creatures on the island. There were humans and monsters. However, the island was covered with a layer of mysterious power, which made Qin Shujian unable to accurately perceive the powerhouses on the island. He could only roughly distinguish some things. There are monsters on the island? Could it be that there are a lot of powerhouses on the island? A few doubts flashed through Qin Shujian's mind. The monsters on the land had already run away. He didn't expect to meet them here. An island dared to establish itself in the inner area of the sea area, and it seemed that it had existed for many years. It still existed after so many years. Qin Shujian could guess that the power contained in the island was probably not weak. Or else, it was impossible for it to exist for so many years and still be strong. Unknown things. Normally, he should stay away from it. However, after exploring the sea area for half a month, he didn't find anything at all. When he saw the island, Qin Shujian also had some thoughts. Something he didn't know. People who had been living in the sea area might not know. After thinking about it, Qin Shujian decided to explore the situation of the island. If there was danger, he would retreat as soon as possible. Bah! Qin Shujian secretly spat at himself. Retreat again. Damn it, he had to retreat again. Damn the power of the sea area. It wanted him to retreat all the time. The more the sea area rejected him, the more Qin Shujian wanted to explore. Just as the boat was approaching, on the island, some people also discovered the whereabouts of the boat. There is a boat approaching the island. Quick, go and report to the elders. Blow the horn. Alert, alert. After seeing the existence of the boat, it immediately caused a lot of commotion. Some people turned back to report, while others took out the horn and blew it. The dull sound resounded on the island. Many people were working. At this time, their faces suddenly changed, and then they gathered in the place where the horn sounded. What's going on? Is there another attack by a beast? No, it's not a beast attack. Some people looked panicked, while others looked dignified. The island had existed here for many years. Almost every once in a while, there would be a beast attack. Once the beast attacked the island, the warning person would blow the horn. But the difference was, the frequency of the beast attack was completely different from the frequency of the beast attack. Some of the more experienced people understood the situation after thinking about it for a while. Something is approaching the island, but it's not a beast. Hearing that, many people's faces changed. Something was approaching the island. In the entire sea area, if it wasn't a beast, it should only be an outsider. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "Is there another outsider who went deep into the Dead Sea area?" At this time, many people had already arrived there, just in time to see a boat slowly sailing towards the island. Such a boat can reach the inner area of the sea area? Didn't you see someone on the boat? Maybe he came alone. Hiss. For a time, the sound of gasps could be heard everywhere. Entering the sea area alone. This was a bit fierce. They knew very well how dangerous the inner area of the Dead Sea area was. To have the ability to enter the inner area of the sea area alone, the word powerful could not describe it. When they saw the boat, many people had already gone to inform the experts on the island. An outsider had arrived. This was an unusual thing in itself. A cultivator shouted, "Don't make a noise, stay alert. Although it's a human, don't take it lightly before knowing whether it's a friend or foe." After that, the excitement on some people's faces also faded a little. That's right. Before knowing whether the person was a friend or foe, it was both a good thing and a dangerous thing to deal with a mysterious expert. Rumble. The sea level shook. Monstrous waves rose at this moment. A huge tail hundreds of feet long rose from the bottom of the sea, and the boat was directly sent flying towards the sky by this powerful force. It could be seen clearly. On the tail that was out of the water, the green scales were shining with a frightening cold light. Not good. The faces of the people on the island changed drastically, looking at the hundreds of feet long tail as if they had seen something terrible. The leader of the cultivators in charge of guarding roared loudly, "Azure King has appeared. Everyone pay attention." Immediately informed the experts of the various sects to guard against Azure King attacking the island. Woo! Woo! The dull sound, which carried the smell of blood and slaughter, reverberated in the air above the island. It was different from the previous horn. The sound of this horn meant that a powerful beast was approaching the island, and there was a possibility of attacking the island. Suddenly, many experts on the island were alarmed. Those people looked at the tail that was out of the sea, and their faces were incomparably solemn, with faintly visible fear in their eyes. As for the boat now, they had long forgotten about it. If they encountered Azure King in the sea, there was no chance of survival at all. Although that mysterious expert could drive the boat deep into the inner area of the sea, it might be due to luck. Even if they relied on their own strength, when they encountered Azure King, there was a high probability that they would not be a match for him. With the appearance of the tail, the boat was completely swallowed by the waves. At this moment, suddenly, a thunderous roar was heard from the rising waves. "Evil beast, how dare you be so arrogant?" Subsequently, a huge palm pressed down the rising waves and then directly pinched the snake tail that was hundreds of feet long. In the next moment, a huge sea snake that was thousands of feet long was directly pulled out of the sea. Then, it was heavily smashed down. Boom! The thousands of feet long snake's body fell, accompanied by a shocking roar. Before the monstrous waves rose, they saw a small boat coming with the wind, pressing down all the waves. In front of the boat, a person came with his hands behind his back, his green robes fluttering in the wind, like an immortal. The sudden change of events. It simply stunned everyone. Before they could react, the dizzy Azure King also woke up and then continued to attack Qin Shujian crazily. At this moment, Qin Shujian activated his Dharma Eye and had already seen Azure King's attributes clearly. The first level of the celestial being. After seeing the other party's attributes, he looked calm. When Qin Shujian first entered the sea, he could easily kill the big octopus. Although he had not broken through, his strength was already stronger than when he first entered the sea. In the face of a green snake at the first level of the celestial being, he was still confident to deal with it. When the people on the island saw him, Qin Shujian also saw the people on the island. Even when Azure King appeared, he also saw the faces of the people on the island clearly. Just from the surface, Qin Shujian could see it. The people on the island were quite afraid of Azure King. In other words, a beast at the first level of the celestial being was also a huge threat in the eyes of the people on the island. Just from these details, in just an instant, Qin Shujian saw a lot of things. Now that Azure King was attacking, his normal approach should be to put away the boat and then use celestial being to fight with the other party in a bloody hand-to-hand fight. But now, Qin Shujian, however, had his own ideas. Although hand-to-hand combat was good, it was also shocking enough, but not unfathomable enough. Qin Shujian held the Qianquan bow and took the cloud-piercing arrow with one hand. He calmly drew the bow and arrow, and the 566 star acupoints in his body were already vibrating together. A terrifying force rose from his body and then converged into the bow and arrow. It was also at this moment, Azure King opened his big mouth that could swallow a small mountain and swallowed Qin Shujian and the boat. "You're courting death." Qin Shujian shook his head slightly and then released the bowstring. Boom! The void shattered. P.S. It's inevitable that the title of the book has been changed. If you want to abandon the book because of this, I won't stop you because there's no need to. Stay up late every day to write and try to update as much as possible. There's nothing to say about abandoning a book for a title. As for the name change, that's it. Let's not talk about it anymore. In addition, there's now a double monthly vote event. Every night from 20 to 24, you can crowdfund and vote. If you're interested, you can take a look at the author's words. There's a link below. This paragraph is less than 200 words. There's no charge. Don't worry. Chapter 535. Cosmos Bow. Cloud-piercing arrow. The combination of the two was comparable to a six-seal Dao artifact. Coupled with Qin Shujian's strength, the power he could display could only be described as shocking. The cloud-piercing arrow shattered the void and directly sank into the Azure King's head. In the next second, the huge head shattered with a loud bang, turning into a bloody mist that scattered all over the sky. The headless Azure King's huge snake body twisted crazily in the sea, instantly overturning the river and the sea. Qin Shujian took back the Cosmos Bow and cloud-piercing arrow. Then, he pressed down with his palm, forcefully imprisoning the Azure King's body that had yet to die. The entire process. It happened in a flash. By the time the others reacted, the situation had changed. The Azure King had already fallen. Only a small boat was moving forward in the waves that had yet to calm down. The person on the bow of the boat stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the island in front of him. The Azure King has fallen. When the cultivators on the island saw this scene, they all rubbed their eyes, not daring to believe what they were seeing. The Azure King had fallen. For the island, this was a huge matter. A divine-level beast had been coveting the living beings on the island for more than a day or two. All these years, many people had died in the mouth of the snake. Some people wanted to eliminate the Azure King, but they had no way to do so. Now that the Azure King had fallen, the people on the island felt that the stone in their hearts had been removed. However, although they were shocked by the fall of the Azure King, they were even more shocked by Qin Shujian's strength. He killed the Azure King with one arrow. Such strength was enough to be described as shocking. At this moment, there were also experts on the island who came and saw the Azure King's body that was not completely dead. "May I ask who you are and why you have come to my heavenly rune island?" A middle-aged man flew over and landed in front of everyone. Then, he looked at Qin Shujian and said in a clear voice. His voice cut across the sea, spreading far and wide. When the middle-aged man appeared, the surrounding people couldn't help but step back a little, as if they didn't dare to stand next to him. Qin Shujian stood with his hands behind his back and replied, "I am Qin Shujian of the human race of the Great Zhao. I entered the sea a few days ago and coincidentally saw your island. I have some questions to ask." He didn't say that he was from Baiyun Mansion, or that he was the sect master of Sky Origin Sect. Based on the knowledge of the people on the island, they might not have heard of Baiyun Manor or Sky Origin Sect. In the past, Baiyun Fu was not called Baiyun Fu. It was only after the Great Zhao established the world that the Fu was renamed. Great Zhao. Everyone had puzzled expressions on their faces. The doubt on the middle-aged man's face disappeared in a flash. He cupped his hands and said, "If you don't mind, you can come to my heavenly rune island for a chat." "That's exactly what I was thinking," Qin Shujian said calmly. The confusion on their faces did not escape his eyes. From this, Qin Shujian could see that these people had not even heard of Great Zhao. Very soon, the small boat appeared in front of Heavenly Rune Island. Qin Shujian took a step forward and appeared on the island in the next instant. When he entered Heavenly Rune Island, he immediately felt a mysterious power fall on his body. This power, it didn't seem to be suppressed, but it was hard to grasp. Laws. Qin Shujian was puzzled for a moment before he understood what the mysterious power was. The power of laws. He had not only encountered it on Heavenly Rune Island. In the past, the ordinary realm and the true domain had powerful laws. Even the spirit domain had the same suppression of laws. However, it was different from the ordinary realm and the true domain. The spirit domain's laws were very subtle and very weak. It was not difficult to break the laws. At the same time, Qin Shujian discovered that the power that blocked his perception on Heavenly Rune Island had completely disappeared. For a moment, the divine sense of a heavenly being involuntarily spread out. In an instant, more than half of Heavenly Rune Island appeared in his perception range. When he spread out his perception, Qin Shujian was stunned. At the same time, the middle-aged man stepped forward and cupped his hands. "I am Xiakun, an elder of the Fantasy Ocean sect on the island. May I know your name?" Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian also cupped his hands in return. Xiakun was not weak. He was a peak divine martial realm cultivator. A peak divine martial realm cultivator was only an elder. Without a doubt, the so-called Fantasy Ocean sect was definitely a peak power with a heavenly being cultivator overseeing it. Xiakun said enthusiastically, "You have come from afar. Why don't you follow me to the Fantasy Ocean sect to rest? I can also introduce you to the situation on the island." "All right," Qin Shujian nodded. Then, he turned around and put away the small boat. Immediately after, he followed Xiakun and left. Among the onlookers, some people saw Xiakun take Qin Shujian away and wanted to stop him. However, they had misgivings about Xiakun's strength and could only suppress the impulse in their hearts. Just like that, the two of them left. Walking through Heavenly Pattern Island, Qin Shujian discovered that the situation on the island was not much different from what he had expected. There was farming and herding. There were humans and Yao. He even saw a Yao with a leopard head arguing with a human. The two were arguing intensely, but no one attacked. The surrounding people were used to this. It was completely different from the humans of the Great Zhao, who would fight to the death whenever they saw a Yao. Although Qin Shujian was surprised, he did not show it on his face. Xiaokun walked to his side and asked, "This one will boldly call you Brother Qin. May I ask where the Great Zhao that Brother Qin speaks of comes from?" "The Great Zhao is the current human court," Qin Shujian casually replied. Xiaokun was still someone else on the island. The clothing he wore was completely different from the clothing of the other prefectures of the Great Zhao. This type of clothing, he had never heard of it before. Vaguely, Qin Shujian had some guesses. Hearing this, Xiaokun's expression became confused. He said, "Human court? What is court? Is it the name of a tribe?" "Tribe?" Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows slightly and said with a faint smile, "That's about right." "I see." Xiaokun nodded and said with a smile, "For the Great Zhao to produce an expert like Brother Qin, it seems to be a powerful tribe. The Azure King is one of the few powerful beasts in the 100,000 Li Sea. For Brother Qin to be able to kill the Azure King in one shot, your strength is truly shocking." "You flatter me," Qin Shujian said modestly. Xiaokun said, "Brother Qin's strength is so strong that there are only a few people on the island who can stand shoulder to shoulder with you. Does Brother Qin have any thoughts of joining my illusionary sea sect?" "I already have a sect." Facing Xiaokun's sudden attempt to rope him in, Qin Shujian could only reply. Hearing this, Xiaokun didn't find it too strange. For an expert like Qin Shujian to have a sect behind him was a normal matter. As the two talked, their footsteps didn't slow down in the slightest. Not long after, they arrived in front of a city. Although it was called a city, it was much worse than the cities of the Great Zhao. The city was only 3 zhang tall and was made of yellow soil. There were no guards at the city gates, allowing people to enter and leave. Xiaokun said, "This city is where my illusionary sea sect is located. It is also one of the few large cities on Heavenly Rune Island. If Brother Qin wants to settle down, this is a very good choice." Qin Shujian replied casually with a smile on his face. Soon, the two entered the city one after the other. The style of the city was similar to the cities of the Great Zhao, but it was a bit too simple. There were people hawking on both sides, but they didn't use silver to trade. Instead, they bartered. Qin Shujian didn't find this strange. Heavenly Rune Island was isolated from the rest of the world. Aside from the fierce beasts in the surroundings, there were only fierce beasts. If they used silver to trade, it was useless. Bartering was a normal thing to do. Not long after, Xiaokun brought Qin Shujian to the front of a palace. Compared to the simple and crude city, the palace in front of them was much more exquisite. Although it looked simple and unadorned, when one looked at it carefully, one would discover that it gave off a natural feeling. As the two of them walked in, Izichin walked in. Immediately, disciples of the Illusionary Sea sect came to greet them. After seeing Xiaokun, they all bowed and greeted him. Xiaokun nodded slightly in response, then led Qin Shujian to a side hall. "Brother Qin, this is the place where the guests of my Illusionary Sea sect live. You can rest here for a while. If there is anything, you can call the disciples outside at any time. I still have to report to Brother Qin, so I can only excuse myself for now." Xiaokun said politely. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, "Brother Xia is too polite." Then Xiaokun cupped his hands and walked out. In the side hall, Qin Shujian was the only one left. Looking around the side hall, Qin Shujian did not sit down. Instead, he paced around the side hall, looking at the traces in the surroundings. With his eyesight, he could see that the side hall itself was a Dao artifact. That's right, a Dao artifact. To be honest, when he saw the side hall, Qin Shujian was secretly shocked. It was hard for him to imagine a yellow Earth city would have a Dao artifact-level palace. But that was the truth. This palace was a Dao artifact. However, Qin Shujian did not dare to confirm what level it was. But it was definitely not a low-level Dao artifact. The reason for that was because he was able to sense an ancient aura from the palace. Ever since I entered Heavenly Pattern Island, The things I saw were very unusual. Xiaokun has never heard of the imperial court, only the tribes. As far as I know, humans and fiends are mortal enemies. As for the hatred, although I don't know when it started, it has existed for at least tens of thousands of years. Because in the records of the Great Zhao Empire, humans and fiends are two extremes. But on Heavenly Pattern Island, I can't see any hatred between humans and fiends. From this, it can be seen that Heavenly Pattern Island's history is extremely long. Perhaps it already existed before humans and fiends broke off relations. For a time, many guesses appeared in Qin Shujian's mind. Ancient. Many times, it was synonymous with profound knowledge. Moreover, the moment he stepped onto Heavenly Pattern Island and spread out his perception, Qin Shujian discovered that everyone on the island, even a child, was in the true martial realm. This discovery was very surprising. After all, in the Great Zhao Empire, only the top monstrous geniuses could become true martial realm cultivators at a young age. The rest of the people would need at least several years of bitter cultivation to break through to the true martial realm. Some people might not be able to break through to the true martial realm even after spending several decades. This was not a joke. There were indeed many people in the Great Zhao Empire who had stopped at the basic realm. There was no need to say anything else. Zhang Feng alone was the best proof. A young fourth-stage, basic realm cultivator. If he hadn't joined the Sky Origin sect, he might have already been buried in the ground. But on Heavenly Pattern Island, there didn't seem to be anyone below the true martial realm. Even newborn children were born in the true martial realm. But even so, the people on the island weren't very strong. The weakest was the real martial arts realm, but most of them were between the real martial arts realm and the spirit martial arts realm. Very few could reach the god martial arts realm. Qin Shujian didn't sense many great cultivators at the peak of the god martial arts realm like Xiaokun. As for the diviners, Qin Shujian shook his head. To be honest, he couldn't sense them. If the island didn't have a Dao artifact hall, then the diviners would be able to hide their presence and make it difficult for others to detect them. There were diviners on the island. Qin Shujian was certain. However, even if there were diviners on the island, they shouldn't be very strong. According to what Xiaokun said, there are people on the island who are on par with me, or even stronger than me. The possibility of this is very low. Xiaokun might have said this to intimidate me. If there really was such a cultivator on the island, how could a mere azure snake scare the people on the island? They would have killed the azure snake long ago. Diviners were very observant. Even if there wasn't anything on the surface, as long as there were fluctuations in one's heart, one could catch a thing or two. When Qin Shujian stepped onto Heavenly Pattern Island, he understood many things. He could enter Heavenly Pattern Island. For him, this was a good thing. Heavenly Pattern Island was ancient, but it wasn't very strong. This kind of place was just right for him to gather information. On the other side, Xiaokun also left the side hall and came to a sealed secret room. In the secret room, an old man with one foot in the grave was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room. There was a huge amount of spirit qi surging out and flowing into his body. As Xiaokun entered, the old man opened his eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "Just now, I felt a powerful force. Is there a ferocious beast attacking?" "Azure King." "Humph, it's him again." The old man snorted and said, "If it wasn't for the fact that I can't leave this place, I would have killed that beast long ago." "When?" "A ferocious beast at the first stage of the Sky Realm dared to show off in front of him. If he was in his peak state in the past, he would have killed it with a slap. But now, there was no other way." The old man thought of something, and the killing intent on his body dissipated. His eyes became turbid again. He said, "I felt the aura of an outsider. What's going on?" There was a diviner who claimed to be from a tribe called Dazhao. The Azure King was wreaking havoc and happened to be met by this person. He killed the Azure King with an arrow. Xiaokun reported truthfully. He killed the Azure King with a single arrow. The old man's expression changed. He said, "Could it be an almighty?" "I'm not sure, but from what I see, it shouldn't be an almighty." Xiaokun hesitated for a moment before saying. Although Qin Shujian gave him a strong feeling, It didn't reach the level of an almighty. But he couldn't be sure of this matter. Because some experts didn't make a move, it was hard to find out their true strength. But in Xia Kun's opinion, even if Qin Shujian wasn't an almighty, he was at least a saint expert. The old man said, "What's this person's name? What's his purpose in coming to Heavenly Pattern Island?" This person's name is Qin Shujian. His purpose in coming to Heavenly Pattern Island seems to be to inquire about some information, Xia Kun replied. Information? The old man had a puzzled expression. He wanted to stand up from the ground. Xia Kun immediately walked over and helped the old man up. Don't worry. These old bones of mine won't die yet. The old man shook his head, but he didn't shake off Xia Kun's support. He said, "Bring me to take a look. If he comes with ill intentions, we have to kill him. I just hope he's a friend and not an enemy." The current Fantasy Sea sect couldn't withstand any twists and turns. Or rather, the entire Heavenly Pattern Island couldn't withstand any big twists and turns. Qin Shujian was currently sitting in a side hall, silently meditating and cultivating. He discovered that the spiritual energy in this large hall was several times denser than the spiritual energy outside. In Qin Shujian's opinion, there should be a lot of spiritual stones buried in this large hall. Otherwise, how could there be such dense spiritual energy? Not long after, Qin Shujian woke up from his meditation. He opened his eyes and looked outside the side hall. Without seeing him do anything, the side hall's door opened, revealing Xia Kun and the old man. The moment he saw the old man, Qin Shujian was startled. This was because he sensed that the old man before him was emitting a decaying aura. Many people who were nearing the end of their lifespan would have such an aura, but all those people added together weren't as strong as the decaying aura coming from the old man. It was as if the person standing in front of Qin Shujian wasn't a living person, but a person who had died a long time ago. A dead person? No, he's not a dead person. Qin Shujian quickly overturned his guess. Although the decaying aura coming from the old man was serious, there was still a trace of life in his body. As long as there was life, then he was a living person. Qin Shujian stood up at the right time as his thoughts raced. Xia Kun helped the old man into the side hall and introduced, "Brother Qin, this is our Fantasy Sea sect's Grand Ancestor. If you have anything you want to know, you can ask Grand Ancestor. If even Grand Ancestor doesn't know, then no one in the entire Heavenly Pattern Island should know." Good fellow. Grand Ancestor. How many generations were there? Qin Shujian didn't know. Without a doubt, this Grand Ancestor was definitely an old antique. Moreover, he wasn't an ordinary old antique. Otherwise, how could he be qualified for a peak divine martial realm cultivator to call him Grand Ancestor? Qin Shujian cupped his hands and said, "This Qin greets Grand Ancestor." He suddenly paused, not knowing what to say. The old man seemed to see Qin Shujian's awkwardness. He smiled and said, "My name is Xia Chao. You can call me Xia Chao." "Senior Xia is too polite," Qin Shujian said. It was normal for him to address the other party as a senior. Xia Chao had lived for who knows how many years, and his strength was definitely not weak. Although he looked like he had one foot in the grave, Qin Shujian could feel a silent power from Xia Chao's body. It was as if once this dormant power erupted, it would unleash an earth-shattering power. Xia Chao indicated that Xia Kun didn't need to be helped. He slowly walked to a seat in the side hall and said, "You don't need to be so formal. Sit down and talk." "Thank you." Qin Shujian sat down. As for Xia Kun, he wanted to sit down as well, but Xia Chao waved his hand and had him leave. After Xia Kun left, the side hall fell into a short silence. After a while, Xia Chao slowly opened his mouth and said in a hoarse voice, "Before you ask any questions, I also have a few questions that I want to ask you." "Senior Xia, please ask." Qin Shujian nodded. Xia Chao said, "I want to ask, what year is it now?" "Year 6787 of Ji Qian. 6787 years to the end of the Qian dynasty?" Xia Chao's turbid eyes revealed a doubtful expression. Then, his lips wriggled, and his hoarse voice sounded again. "Then which Emperor of Heaven is in the Heavenly Court now?" "Heavenly Court. Emperor of Heaven." Qin Shujian's expression was calm when he heard Xia Chao's question. However, he couldn't help but feel shocked. He originally thought that Heavenly Rune Island was old enough. But now that Xia Chao spoke, Qin Shujian realized that Heavenly Rune Island was even older than he imagined. When he opened his mouth, he talked about the Heavenly Court. When he closed his mouth, he talked about the Emperor of Heaven, who knew how many years had passed since the destruction of the Heavenly Court. Qin Shujian was thinking about how to answer Xia Chao's question. He wasn't sure if Xia Chao would do something impulsive if he knew about the destruction of the Heavenly Court. While Qin Shujian was silent, Xia Chao seemed to understand something. Xia Chao seemed to know something inside. If that's the case, then the Celestial Court couldn't survive that tribulation either. After he said that, although Xia Chao didn't change much, Qin Shujian could clearly feel that the decaying aura on his body seemed to have become stronger. Qin Shujian pondered for a moment and said, "May I ask what the great calamity that Senior mentioned is? Before I answer your question, answer two more of mine. Senior, please ask, who is the strongest person in the human race now?" "The human emperor." "So there is still a living human emperor." Xia Chao was surprised and then asked, "Then how many immortals are there in the human race now?" "Immortals? There hasn't been an immortal in the human race for a long time." Qin Shujian's heart skipped a beat, and he said truthfully. Xia Chao's expression changed slightly, and he said strangely, "If there are no immortals, how can there be a living human emperor?" Cough, cough. "I wonder what level of expert is the human emperor that Senior mentioned?" Qin Shujian found a problem. The human emperor that Xia Chao mentioned seemed to be a little different from the human emperor that he knew. Hearing that, Xia Chao's face was slightly proud, and he said, "The human emperor who controls the immortals and suppresses a clan." Controls the immortals, suppresses a clan. Qin Shujian thought for a moment, and then said with a little embarrassment, "In that case, the human emperor that I mentioned might be a little different from the human emperor that Senior mentioned. P.S. Let's update first. There's no time to write." Chapter 536. Subsequently, Qin Shujian also told Xia Chao about the current situation of the human race. Since he wanted to exchange for information, then he needed an equivalent exchange. In any case, this information wasn't a secret. Who knew when a human would come here? All right. From Qin Shujian's point of view, the probability of someone coming here was not high. This was already the inner area of the sea. Moreover, the sea was vast and boundless. Although Heavenly Pattern Island wasn't small, it was like a grain of sand compared to the entire sea. Even if someone was lucky enough to enter the inner area, they might not be able to find Heavenly Pattern Island. And looking at the situation of Heavenly Pattern Island, it should have been a long time since outsiders came. At least after the destruction of the Heavenly Court, no outsiders came. Xia Chao also fell into deep thought. After a long time, he sighed and said, "I didn't expect the human race to be so weak. Immortals are extinct, and even heavenly men can be called emperors." In his words, there was a lot of disdain for the human emperor. Qin Shujian smiled in response. In any case, the other party disdained the human emperor, not him. So what did it matter? As for whether the human emperor could destroy Heavenly Pattern Island or not, the probability was quite high. However, these words, Qin Shujian wouldn't say it out loud. He could only ridicule it in his heart. Heavenly Pattern Island wasn't strong, but their horizons were really high. But the more it was like this, the happier Qin Shujian was. The history of Heavenly Pattern Island was longer than he had imagined. Then, he might be able to find out a lot of things from Xia Chao. Subsequently, Xia Chao looked at Qin Shujian and said, "If you have anything you want to know, feel free to ask. Some things are better known by others than by time." Qin Shujian asked, "Senior, may I ask what kind of great tribulation you're talking about?" "The great calamity that led to the destruction of the Heavenly Court." He was very curious. The human emperor and Marquis Baiyun should know something, but they weren't willing to say it. Since they weren't willing to say it, Qin Shujian couldn't force them to ask. Now that he had the chance, it was a good time to understand. Xia Chao was suddenly immersed in his memories. There seemed to be some fear on his face, but there also seemed to be some killing intent. After struggling for a long time, he finally gave up and spoke. The great calamity originated from the demon abyss. At that time, the myriad races were at their peak. The Emperor of Heaven established the heavenly court and ruled over the myriad races in the world. It was a glory that the world had never seen before. It's different from the current human race. Back then, the Celestials were also experts, but they weren't at the peak. Because above the Celestials are the Immortals. The strongest among the Immortals is the Emperor. As for the Emperor of Heaven, he is above the Emperor. Until one day, the demonic abyss opened. A large number of evil demons rushed into the world, slaughtering all living beings and creating demonic disasters. They engaged in endless battles with the heavenly court and the myriad races. Xia Chao spoke and stopped, as if he was recalling something. He had lived for far too long. It was so long ago that many of his memories had been erased by time. Qin Shujian sat aside and listened attentively. From Xia Chao's words, he seemed to have seen the heyday of the myriad races. Humans, Shifter, Eldar, Protoss, every powerful race had an emperor. Although some weak races didn't have emperors, they still had almighty figures and even immortals. At that time, the myriad races were the most prosperous period of the world. Most of the races could be compared to the current human race. Even the weak races at the bottom of the myriad races were not much weaker than the current human race. The strength of the human race lay in the human emperor, a powerhouse who could kill almighty figures. Without the human emperor, the human race might not be stronger than those weak races. Because from Xia Chao's words, even the weakest race in the myriad races of the past had no less than 10 almighty figures. If Xia Chao hadn't said it himself, Qin Shujian would never believe that the myriad races of the past would be so glorious and the human race of the past would be so powerful. Among the myriad races, the human race was number one. There was no other reason. Because the Emperor of Heaven was a human. The Emperor of Heaven could intimidate the myriad races and establish the supreme heavenly court. His title as the number one powerhouse of the myriad races was unquestionable. Qin Shujian said, "Could it be that with the tyrannical strength of the myriad races, they can't resist the demon abyss? They can't resist it." Xia Chao shook his head and said, "The demons are too strong. The weakest demons in the demon abyss are at the celestial being realm. Moreover, other than a few methods, they can't be killed at all. If that's all, it's fine. The demon gods in the demon abyss are at the 7th level of the celestial being realm, and the strong have reached the immortal realm. In the past, when the demon abyss first invaded the world, many races were destroyed. Later, the heavenly court reacted and organized powerhouses to resist the demon abyss, but they were still defeated." Xia Chao sighed. "Actually, before you came, I had already guessed that the heavenly court might have been destroyed, but I still had a fantasy in my heart that the heavenly court would win. But from the looks of it, the heavenly court still failed." Hearing this, Qin Shujian was silent for a moment, then said, "The heavenly court can't be considered a failure. At least there are no demons wreaking havoc in the world now." "That's right. The heavenly court didn't lose, and neither did the myriad races. The demons have been beaten back." Xia Chao's turbid eyes shone brightly, and a carefree smile appeared on his face. However, judging from his wrinkled skin, such a smile was a little creepy. Qin Shujian said, "May I ask who Senior is? Why do you know so much about the heavenly court? I'm afraid that millions of years have passed since ancient times." "Millions of years? Maybe," Xia Chao muttered, then shook his head. He looked at Qin Shujian and said seriously, "My surname is Xia." Qin Shujian was confused. "Then? Your surname is Xia. What does it mean?" Seeing Qin Shujian's expression, Xia Chao shook his head and sighed. "It seems that the heavenly court has been destroyed for a long time. No one even knows the name Xia." I'm short-sighted. I hope Senior doesn't blame me." "Fine," Xia Chao said. His stooped back suddenly straightened a little, and he said seriously, "The former human emperor was called Emperor Xia." Emperor Xia. Qin Shujian's pupil shrank. He finally understood why Xia Chao had such a posture when he mentioned his surname. It turned out that he was a descendant of the former human emperor. It was no wonder that the other party had so much information. Xia Chao continued, Emperor Xia had 15 sons, and the last one was named Sun Chao. Sun Chao? Xia Chao? Qin Shujian was puzzled at first, and then his expression changed drastically when he looked at Xia Chao. Xia Chao? Was he the son of the former human emperor, a direct descendant? Impossible. It's been millions of years since ancient times, and the lifespan of a celestial being is only 7,000 years. How? Qin Shujian was really shocked. His first reaction was that Xia Chao was lying to him. But when he saw the other party's calm expression and the strong rotten aura on his body, Qin Shujian was a little uncertain. He was really the son of the human emperor. The person sitting in front of him was an old antique who had lived for God knows how many years. However, Qin Shujian couldn't believe that Xia Chao could live for millions of years. If that was the case, how could the other party be a mere celestial being? Thinking of this, Qin Shujian couldn't help but look at Xia Chao with his Dharma eyes. Suddenly, Xia Chao's attributes appeared in his sight. Seeing this, Qin Shujian was secretly shocked again. 10 levels of the celestial being realm. 10 levels of the celestial being realm was the peak of the mighty. In other words, the other party was an expert at the limit of the celestial being realm. He was only one step away from breaking through to the immortal realm. However, looking at Xia Chao's current appearance, he was afraid that the realm of the celestial being realm was empty, but he didn't have the strength to match it. At least, Qin Shujian didn't feel any threat from the other party. Xia Chao looked at Qin Shujian's eyes with a hint of surprise on his face, but he didn't get angry. He said, I've never heard of your means, but it's not a good thing to pry into other people's lives. Qin Shujian immediately reacted and apologized. Senior, please don't blame me. I couldn't help it for a moment. Forget it. I have nothing worth hiding. Xia Chao shook his head with a wry smile and said, I'm just a half-dead celestial being realm cultivator. That's all I can do. Qin Shujian said, Please forgive me for being presumptuous, but I want to ask, with your realm, how did you survive from ancient times until now? Could it be that there is really a way to live forever in the world? He asked the question that all normal people would ask. Living from ancient times until now. No matter how good Qin Shujian's mentality was, he couldn't suppress the shock in his heart. If the news were to spread, the world would probably go crazy over it. At that time, even if the inner area of the sea area was extremely dangerous, there would still be a steady stream of people coming here to explore, because the temptation of immortality was really too great. At that moment, Qin Shujian had the impulse to get the secret of immortality from Xia Chao. But soon, this impulse was forcibly suppressed by him. Immortality was good, but there was definitely a price to pay. Looking at Xia Chao's appearance, it could be seen. If there was really no price, how could the other party wander around the 10th level of the celestial being realm? Or was it really so difficult to break through to the immortal realm that there was no chance to succeed in tens of millions of years? Qin Shujian didn't know, and he wasn't sure. He knew a lot of things, but that was also relatively speaking. Compared to Xia Chao, what he knew was really too little. Qin Shujian was struggling in his heart, and Xia Chao was also looking at him. After he put down the impulse in his heart, Xia Chao smiled and said, There is no real immortality in the world. The so-called immortality comes with a price. What you need to know is that whatever you get, you have to pay a corresponding price. I have lived from ancient times until now, and the price is that I will never be able to break through my current realm, and I will never be able to leave this hall, and my body will continue to age. Xia Chao's tone was inexplicable. There was a price to pay for immortality. As the son of Emperor Xia, how could his talent be weak? Hearing this, Qin Shujian thought to himself, as expected. Xia Chao glanced at him, and then continued, when the demon abyss invaded, the myriad races were defeated. The former human emperor was afraid that the inheritance of the human race would be cut off, so he asked me to bring a part of the human race to the sea to preserve the foundation. The monster race and Eldar of the myriad races also had the same idea, and the three races hit it off. Then, They each sent a small part of their forces to the sea, and finally found the heavenly pattern island and settled here. Xiao Chao seemed to have not spoken for many years. Or could it be that he had kept these things in his heart for too long, and now that he met Qin Shujian, he had the urge to say it all? The human emperor once said that if the myriad races defeated the demons, then he would send out a new edict to bring us back. If the myriad races were defeated by the demons, then we would be the last bloodline of the human race, monster race, and spirit race. When the three races came to the heavenly pattern island, we waited day and night for a message from the three race emperors. However, we waited for a long time, and there was no news. Only the war continued. Even if we hid in the sea, we could still clearly feel it. Until one day, I seemed to see the heavenly court fall. Heaven and earth were shaking, and the heavens were howling. Blood rained down for 3 years. Xiao Chao seemed to have returned to that scene. First, fear appeared in his eyes, and his tone became more anxious. We knew that there was a war outside, and we also felt that experts were falling. The human emperor, the monster emperor, Ling Huang. The emperors of the various races were falling, and the immortals of the heavenly court were also falling. We wanted to fight, but there was nothing we could do because the heavenly pattern island was the last inheritance and hope of the three races. We had been waiting for the summons of the three race emperors. We hoped that the myriad races would win in the end. But 1,000 years have passed, 3,000 years have passed, 5,000 years have passed, and there has been no news from Group 3. We thought that the heavenly court had been defeated and the world had turned into a demonic land. However, there was still a glimmer of hope, so we kept the inheritance and waited for our emperor to send someone to bring us back. Hearing this, Qin Shujian somewhat understood Xiao Chao's thoughts. There was a glimmer of hope that had never been extinguished. Even if it had been tens of millions of years, he would not forget it. But now, he brought the news of the heavenly court's destruction and the demons retreating to the demon abyss. To a certain extent, he could be considered to have resolved the other party's obsession. All of a sudden, Qin Shujian was startled again. He looked at Xiao Chao with a strange look in his eyes. He had resolved the other party's obsession. Could it be that the other party had hung up after saying a few words? If that was really the case, then it would be very funny. Qin Shujian thought about the seniors and experts that he had heard of in the past. It seemed that they all waited until they finished speaking and then immediately died. Xiao Chao did not know what Qin Shujian was thinking and said, in order to protect the inheritance, someone chose a forbidden technique. He merged himself with a Taoist artifact and transformed himself into a different kind of artifact spirit, living in the world forever. Countless years have passed, and I thought that no more humans would come. I didn't expect that you would come today. A forbidden technique, merging with a Taoist artifact. Hearing this, Qin Shujian immediately extinguished the last bit of fantasy he had about immortality. He finally knew the reason why Xiao Chao did not die. It was because he had turned himself into an artifact spirit that he had survived until now. After all, as long as a Taoist artifact was not destroyed, it could exist forever with the world. Xiao Chao's method could be considered a different kind of immortality. But for Qin Shujian, this was definitely not what he wanted. Being imprisoned forever by a Taoist artifact, unable to leave, and having his cultivation stagnate, was no different from drinking poison to quench one's thirst. After figuring out Xiao Chao's matter and the great calamity of the ancient times, Qin Shujian also understood one thing, which was why the human emperor and the Marquis of Bayun had always avoided talking about the great calamity of the demon abyss. It was because this matter really could not be said out loud. If the human race knew that the myriad races and the heavenly court in the past, which were hundreds or thousands of times more powerful than the current human race, could not contend against the demon abyss, then the matter that was supposed to motivate and integrate the human race would directly crush the morale of the entire human race. When the calamity was so powerful that it could not be resisted, it was normal for the human race to collapse. Think about how they had worked hard to cultivate for hundreds or thousands of years and made complete preparations, and then someone told them that it was useless. No matter how much preparation they had, they would not succeed. That would be a devastating blow to these people. At the same time, Qin Shujian also admired the human emperor. Obviously, the other party was not willing to die in the hands of the evil demons. Faking his death to integrate the human race, eliminate the hidden dangers, and open up the 3 continents were all preparations to resist the demon abyss. Perhaps this is the reason why the human emperor did not stop Yuanzong from advancing. Qin Shujian also thought of another thing. The demon abyss was so powerful. Every bit of strength that the human race increased was the capital to resist the demon abyss. Qin Shujian took a few deep breaths. Then, he looked at Xia Chao and asked seriously, I also have a few things that I would like to ask you. Go ahead. Senior, have you heard of the 4 great continents? The 4 great continents? They are the East Continent, the Aparagodania Continent, the Nanjan Continent, and the North Continent. Qin Shujian told him about the 4 great continents in his impression. Xia Chao pondered for a moment, trying to find something in his dissipating memories. After about 15 minutes, he came back to his senses, shook his head and said, I have never heard of the 4 great continents that you mentioned. When Qin Shujian heard this, he did not know whether to feel disappointed or some other emotion. Xia Chao had never heard of the 4 great continents. Then, the 4 great continents that he knew might not be the same as the 4 great continents now. However, Qin Shujian did not completely give up and asked again, Senior, have you heard of Mount Huagua? There are many mountains in the world, and I can't remember if there is a Mount Huagua. Are there any mountains in the sea? How can there be mountains in the Death Sea region? There are only some scattered islands, and these islands were all destroyed by a great battle in the past, and then floated to the surface of the sea. Xia Chao shook his head, looking a little embarrassed. He originally thought that his knowledge could answer Qin Shujian's doubts. In the end, the other party asked a few questions that he had never heard of. If Xia Chao did not know how to read people's expressions and knew that Qin Shujian was not talking nonsense, he would have thought that the other party had made up the answers. Qin Shujian asked, then, Senior, have you heard of the great sage, Heaven's Equal, Sun Wukong? Great sage, Heaven's Equal, what a big tone. Xia Chao's turbid eyes glowed as he said, even the rulers of the 10,000 races wouldn't dare to be called Heaven's Equal. Who is this person to dare to have such an honorific title? Well, the other party did not know. Qin Shujian was speechless. However, looking at Xia Chao's expression, he still said, it's just a rumor. There might not be such a person at all. I see. I was wondering when there was a person who dared to call himself Heaven's Equal. You should know that the Emperor Heaven is supreme, and no one has ever been on equal footing with him. Xia Chao nodded in agreement. The Emperor Heaven was the most powerful one. No one was more powerful than the Emperor Heaven, not even his father. Even the dignified Emperor Xia did not dare to call himself Heaven's Equal. Which corner of the world dared to call himself Heaven's Equal? Qin Shujian was too lazy to argue with the other party, but Xia Chao's words reminded him of something. I wonder what the name of the former Emperor Heaven is? Xia Chao was somewhat displeased. How can others know the name of the Emperor Heaven? Qin Shujian said, then, what is the title of the Emperor Heaven? The 2 words Heavenly Emperor are already an honorific title. There are no other honorific titles. Xia Chao looked at him strangely, thought for a moment, and said, but I once heard Emperor Xia say that the Emperor Heaven's surname seems to be Qin. As for what Qin is, I don't know. At this point, Xia Chao smiled and said, Your Excellency is also surnamed Qin. You are lucky to have the same surname as the Emperor Heaven. Maybe you also have the Emperor Heaven's bloodline. The Emperor Heaven's bloodline? Qin Shujian smiled awkwardly and said, Senior, you must be joking. He was not interested in finding an ancestor for himself. If the Emperor Heaven still had power, it would be fine. Maybe he could take advantage of this opportunity to borrow his power. But now that the heavenly court was gone, the myriad races were almost dead. Even if he wore the title of the descendant of the Emperor Heaven, it would not benefit him at all. Looking at Xia Chao in front of him, Qin Shujian did not intend to ask anything more. The other party did not know anything. After chatting for so long, other than knowing the ancient calamity and the surname of the Emperor Heaven, there was no more information. Just as he was about to end the conversation, Qin Shujian thought of something and asked, Senior, Have you heard of the pursuers? He had asked Su Yuanming to investigate the pursuers, but there was no news at all. In this way, Qin Shujian could not help but wonder if the pursuers were also from ancient times. It just so happened that there was an ancient living fossil here, so he could ask about it. Again, he repeated his thoughts. Again, he shook his head. Xia Chao said, I've never heard of the pursuers. It seems that I can't give you a satisfactory answer to your many doubts. I've disappointed you. It would be a lie to say that he was not disappointed. However, Qin Shujian at least knew that the flower fruit mountain should not exist in the sea. The four great continents were not the four great continents he had imagined. But from the inaudibility of the two words Pangu, he also felt that this world was very consistent with some of the information he had in mind. Qin Shujian said, Now that Senior knows that the demons have retreated, do you plan to bring the various races of the heavenly pattern island back to the human territory? His words also had the intention of probing. Xia Chao sighed and shook his head. If you were hundreds of thousands of years ago, I would have let the various races of the heavenly pattern island return to their former territories. But hundreds of thousands of years have passed, and the living beings of the island have already taken root here. If they leave, it might not be a good thing. Moreover, he knew that the demons had retreated, and the obsession in his heart had been eliminated. There were some things that he did not need to be too stubborn about. P.S. End of second update. Time to sleep. Chapter 537. Taking root was one of the reasons. Another reason was that with heavenly pattern island's strength, they couldn't leave the inner area of the Sea of Death, the vitality of living beings. In the eyes of fierce beasts, it was an irresistible temptation. There were many heavenly man-fierce beasts like the Azure King around heavenly pattern island. As soon as they left the island, they would be attacked by fierce beasts. If Xia Chao could still display his peak strength, this problem could naturally be solved. But not now. Over millions of years, Xia Chao's physical body had decayed, and his blood and qi had almost dried up. Only the spirit god could fuse with the Tao artifact. Moreover, Xia Chao had not completely transformed into an artifact spirit. He still maintained his decaying body in a delicate state. It could be said that, right now, he could only move around in the main hall. Once he walked out of the main hall, his body would instantly decay and disappear. Without Xia Chao, a 10th-level heavenly man expert, to lead him. Although the remaining cultivators of Heavenly Pattern Island weren't weak, they were still far from being able to break out of the Sea of Death. These words, Xia Chao didn't say it, but Qin Shujian was well aware of it. Qin Shujian also didn't say anything about helping the cultivators of Heavenly Pattern Island out of the Sea of Death, because with his strength, he could protect himself, but it wasn't enough to bring people along. With the dense blood energy on his body, he would be able to encounter heavenly man-level fierce beasts wherever he went. If he encountered a powerful fierce beast, even Qin Shujian himself would have to run. How could he have the time to care about others? It was unknown if Xia Chao knew this in his heart. Qin Shujian didn't speak. He didn't speak either. At this moment, Qin Shujian asked again, with Senior's vision, "Have you ever seen this thing?" While they were talking, Qin Shujian outlined a bronze token in the air. It was the token to open the unknown cave. Xia Chao's calm expression changed slightly when he saw the bronze token. After a long time, he nodded and said, "I've seen it before." "Senior, where have you seen it before?" Qin Shujian was stunned at first, but he quickly came back to his senses. He thought that Xia Chao didn't know about the pursuers, so he definitely didn't know about the bronze token. But Qin Shujian never expected. Xia Chao really did know. Even if he couldn't find any information about the pursuers, it would still be a good thing if he could get the bronze token. The last time he opened the magnificent Cauldron Cave abode, he obtained the spiritual eye. Qin Shujian understood that there must be a great opportunity hidden inside the bronze token. Xia Chao thought for a while and said, "Back then, the human emperor had a token like this, but I don't know where it came from. As for where it went, don't ask me." Qin Shujian's excited heart cooled down. He had seen it in the hands of the ancient human emperor. However, Many years had passed since the ancient era. The ancient human emperor was already dead, and there was no news of the bronze token. However, from Xia Chao's words, Qin Shujian also learned another thing. That was, the existence of the pursuers could be traced all the way back to the ancient era, or even further back. What happened before the heavenly court was established? Was there an era similar to the primordial era in the primordial era? Qin Shujian asked the question in his mind. The longer the origin of the pursuers, the more powerful the pursuers were. Xiao Chao understood what Qin Shujian meant. He shook his head and said, "The primordial era you mentioned is also the era when all races existed. In fact, it existed even further back, but there are no detailed records of that era. Because at that time, heaven and earth had just been born, and all races were being born one after another. That was the period when all races were just starting out, and heaven and earth were in a state of ignorance. The bronze token might have been passed down from that time." Seeing this, Qin Shujian did not ask anything else. Xia Chao knew a lot of things, but there were not many things that were useful to him. This time, it was Xia Chao's turn to speak first. "Your Excellency, do you plan to continue going deeper into the Sea of Death, or return?" "I had planned to go deeper before, but now that some of my questions have been answered, there's no need to go deeper," Qin Shujian said. Xia Chao said, "That's good. There are many powerful fierce beasts in the depths of the Sea of Death. Even in the ancient era, the Sea of Death was an existence that people feared. There were emperors of various races, as well as the Emperor of Heaven, who had entered the deepest part of the Sea of Death. But after coming out, the emperors of various races were also injured. So I can be sure that there must be some kind of powerful force in the depths of the sea, or perhaps there are fierce beasts." According to what Senior said, those tyrannical existences are still in the depths of the sea? Qin Shujian was really shocked this time. The emperors of various races. The emperors that Xia Chao mentioned were not half-baked like the current human emperors. Yes. When he understood what the ancient emperors were, the human emperors were probably half-baked in Qin Shujian's eyes. The ancient emperors were the rulers of the immortals. He did not know if they had broken through to the immortal level, but they were at least the most powerful experts among all the immortals. Not to mention, there was also the Emperor of Heaven leading the team. With such a lineup, Qin Shujian felt that it was enough to enter the demon abyss and kill a wave of people. In the depths of the sea, to be able to injure the human emperors in front of such a lineup, what kind of terrifying fierce beast could do this? Thinking of this, Qin Shujian suddenly felt a great sense of relief. Fortunately, he did not go in. Otherwise, if he encountered such an existence, he would not even have a chance to escape. Qin Shujian had already made a lot of guesses about the power of the sea. He thought that there must be powerful fierce beasts in the depths of the sea. In terms of strength, they might not be much weaker than humans. But now, looking at it, it was more than just about the same. With such strength, even if the words human and demon were tied together, it would not be enough to fight. Xia Chao shook his head and said, "After so many years, I'm not sure if the power that injured the emperor still exists, but as long as we don't go deep into the sea, there won't be any problems." This was what the human emperor told me. If it was the human emperor, then it was very credible. Qin Shujian could guess something from the fact that the emperors of the three races asked the various races to go into the sea to avoid danger. They were certain that the existence in the depths of the sea could contend against the evil demons, so they let the three races go in to preserve a chance of survival. They might not be able to deal with the evil demons, but it was not necessarily a problem for them to protect themselves. In any case, the strength of the sea area was much stronger than what Qin Shujian had imagined, much stronger. But there was no doubt. There must be some secrets hidden in the depths of the sea. Qin Shujian did not intend to explore these secrets. The Emperor of Heaven had led a group of emperors of the various races to go in, but it seemed that they could not handle it. With his strength, going in was no different from delivering food. However, he had a chance to break through and become an immortal in the future. That was why Qin Shujian had the idea of going in to take a look. As for before he broke through, he did not have such plans. Not thinking about the depths of the sea, Qin Shujian asked, "Senior, do you know how the sea was formed?" "I don't know," Xiao Chao shook his head and replied straightforwardly. Then, he paused for a moment and said, I once heard that a ray of light fell, and then the sea appeared. According to the Emperor's speculation, a supreme powerhouse must have taken action and opened up the sea. Or maybe it was formed naturally by the laws of heaven and earth, causing the sea to be born. Xiao Chao said, but I am more inclined to the latter. I believe you also know that there is a mysterious power in the sea that can leave behind a powerhouse's power imprint and form natural disasters. This is not something a cultivator can do. Only the laws formed naturally by heaven and earth can reach this level. Qin Shujian seemed to have understood something. Then, he thought of another question and said, the sea can leave behind a powerhouse's power imprint and reproduce it in the form of natural disasters. Then, he did not finish his words, but his meaning was very clear. Xiao Chao said faintly, yes. Back then, the power imprints of the Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors were all left in the sea. There will also be natural disasters. But you can rest assured. I have been in Heavenly Pattern Island for so many years, but I have only seen the power imprints of powerhouses in the past 3 times. Qin Shujian was speechless. Right now, he only wanted to leave the sea as soon as possible. Qin Shujian also did not expect that the sea would be so excessive. Even now, the power imprints of the Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors were still left in the sea. Don't listen to Xiao Chao's words. It seemed that the number of natural disasters of this level was limited, but if he really encountered one, it would be a dead end. The Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors were at least immortal-level powerhouses. Qin Shujian had to run away when facing a natural disaster of a powerhouse, let alone a natural disaster of at least immortal level. Even a powerhouse would have to kneel when facing such a natural disaster. As for how strong an immortal was, one could know by referring to the human emperor. The human emperor definitely had not broken through to immortal level, but he could easily crush a powerhouse. Immortal. Definitely stronger than the human emperor. It was no wonder that no one dared to go deep into the sea. Or it could be said that all those who went deep into the sea were all dead. It was because the dangers in the sea were so numerous that it was explosive. Any one of them might be able to kill a celestial. Qin Shujian believed that the reason he was able to come here so leisurely was because of his strong luck. However, although Qin Shujian was shocked, a doubt arose in his heart. If the power of the Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors was reproduced, then with Heavenly Rune Island's strength, how could it resist such a natural disaster? He directly asked the doubt in his heart. Heavenly Rune Island seemed to be very strong. It also had a 10th stage celestial like Xiao Chao overseeing it. But now, Xiao Chao was basically crippled. Even if there were still celestials left, there would not be many of them. Those natural disasters were all at the immortal level. With Heavenly Rune Island's strength, it would be destroyed in a matter of minutes. Xiao Chao smiled faintly and said, when you stepped into Heavenly Rune Island, you should have also discovered that there are some laws on Heavenly Rune Island. This is something left behind by the emperors of the various races. These laws come from the same source as the power of the Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors. So, when the natural disasters reproduce these laws, it would not cause any damage to Heavenly Rune Island. In addition, the reason why Heavenly Rune Island could exist for so many years and resist the attacks of the ferocious beasts is because of these laws. Qin Shujian nodded. The power of laws. Now that he had broken through to the 2nd stage of the Array Dao Grandmaster realm, he had also started to come into contact with a bit of the power of laws. However, this power could not be compared to the laws of Heavenly Rune Island. At the same time, Xiakun walked in from outside and stood in front of Xiao Chao. Then, he said respectfully, the people of the Jade Wave sect and the Saint God sect have heard that Brother Qin has arrived. They wish to meet you. The Jade Wave sect and the Saint God sect? Qin Shujian's expression changed. He thought of what Xiao Chao had said earlier. Xiao Chao saw his confusion and explained. The Jade Wave sect was established by Eldar in the past. The Saint God sect was established by the Demon Clan in the past. Together with the Human Clan of the Fantasy Ocean sect, they are the only 3 factions on Heavenly Rune Island. Of course, over the years, Some people have left the three sects and established their own sections. However, they ultimately did not amount to much. I see. Qin Shujian nodded and replied. Heavenly Rune Island was only so big. In his opinion, it was at most the size of the True Dominion. This area was actually not small. However, in Qin Shujian's opinion, the Heavenly Rune Island was still too small. Furthermore, after hundreds of thousands of years, the Heavenly Rune Island would definitely not be able to accommodate so many people. Could it be that the Heavenly Rune Island also implemented family planning? This thought surfaced in Qin Shujian's mind before he dismissed it. It was better not to ask too much about these things. Subsequently, Xiao Chao said, the Jade Wave sect and the Saint God sect have heard about you. They should also want to know about the current situation. However, it is up to you whether you are willing to go. No one will force you. In that case, I will go and meet them. Qin Shujian did not refuse. He also wanted to see which experts from the two sects had stayed behind. Xiao Chao nodded and said, the Jade Wave sect and the Saint God sect are not here. If you want to go, I will let Xia-kun take you there. As for me, it is inconvenient for me to leave. After you leave the two sects, you can come to the Fantasy Ocean sect again. All right. Qin Shujian stood up and left with Xia-kun. Xiao Chao sat in his original position. His turbid eyes looked at Qin Shujian's back as he left and let out a long sigh. So it has been so long. The heavenly court collapsed. Did the human emperor really fall? Xiao Chao did not feel too sad in his heart. He had already guessed about these things. After an ancient time, Xiao Chao's affection for the human emperor had become very thin. After all, millions of years had passed. Many things could be forgotten by time. However, he had never forgotten the inheritance of the human race in the Heavenly Rune Island. This was his mission, the mission to protect the last foundation of the human race. But now that he saw Qin Shujian's arrival, Xiao Chao realized that this mission did not seem so important. The human race was not destroyed. Then the so-called bloodline in the Heavenly Rune Island was just a part of the human race. That's good. In the future, the Heavenly Rune Island will only be the Heavenly Rune Island. Nothing else is important. Xiao Chao sighed again. This breath. It was as if he had spat out the pressure that had been pressing down on him for countless years. In an instant, Xiao Chao's back bent a little more. The aura of death on his body became even thicker. On the other side, Xia-kun had already left the main hall with Qin Shujian. Walking in the city, Xia-kun could not help but turn his head to look at Qin Shujian and ask, Brother Qin, what did the Supreme Ancestor say to you just now? It's nothing. It's just a casual chat. Qin Shujian did not say much. He chuckled and said, Old Senior Xia is very knowledgeable. He has already explained many things to this Qin. He did not talk about Qin Shujian's evasiveness. Xia-kun did not mind. Hearing this, he smiled and said, Of course. In terms of knowledge, no one in the Heavenly Rune Island can compare to the Supreme Ancestor. Could it be that the Blue Wave sect and the Holy God sect can't? More or less. Xia-kun's expression stiffened. Then, he smiled embarrassedly. These words could not be said carelessly. If the two sects heard it, there would be some conflict. That would not be good. Qin Shujian said, The Heavenly Rune Island's spiritual energy is rather dense. It's much denser than the sect I'm in. Of course. Xia-kun smiled proudly and said, There's a spirit vein below the Heavenly Rune Island. Since we're sitting on top of the spirit vein, the spiritual energy will naturally be denser. Spirit vein? Qin Shujian was shocked. He knew that the Heavenly Rune Island definitely had spirit stones. However, he did not expect that there would be a spirit vein. There were big and small spirit veins. But with the origins of the three sects, the spirit vein in the Heavenly Rune Island was definitely not small. Xia-kun said, The spirit vein is the foundation of the Heavenly Rune Island. There are defensive measures left behind by the various sections. Even if a peak sky human expert came, they would not be able to touch the spirit vein. He said these words for Qin Shujian to hear. He wanted to prevent him from having any improper thoughts about the spirit vein. Qin Shujian nodded. He also understood the meaning of Xia-kun's words. The three sects on the island all originated from the ancient era. How could the measures left behind by the various sects be simple? It was no wonder that Xia Kun dared to tell him that there was a spirit vein on the island. He knew that he would not be able to touch the spirit vein. Regarding this, Qin Shujian could only sneer in his heart. How could he, sect master Qin, be the kind of person who would open his eyes at the sight of a spirit vein? A mere spirit vein was not enough for him to care about. Even if it did not have any defensive measures, well, if it really did not have any defensive measures, he might be black-hearted and make a move. During the conversation, the two of them left Yellow Earth City and headed in a certain direction. Qin Shujian said, "The Eldar and the Fiend race also have people like old Senior Xia, right?" "Both. Every sect has an ancient expert overseeing it," Xia Kun casually replied. What he said to Qin Shujian was not a secret in the Heavenly Rune Island. Apart from the newly born children, everyone else knew their origins. They were all descendants of the ancient sections. In order to not let them forget the glory of the past, the three sects would spread this information for generations to come, so that everyone would firmly remember their identity and origins. Not long after, a city appeared in front of the two of them. It was the same Yellow Earth City. It was the same palace. The difference was that most of the people in the city were not of the human race, but of the fiend race. Everywhere one could see those who had not fully transformed and had some characteristics of the fiend race walking in the city. There were also those who appeared in front of people with the bodies of the fiend race. Walking into the city, Qin Shujian almost thought that he had entered the Thousand Fiend Country. However, thinking about it, it was not much different from the Thousand Fiend Country. There were fiends everywhere, but these fiends' strength was average. Qin Shujian did not think about it. One day, he would walk among the fiend race as a human. Moreover, he could walk freely. If he did not know about the hatred between the Eastern Continent's human race and the fiend race, Qin Shujian would have thought that what he experienced was fake. What a paradise! Qin Shujian suddenly sighed. The various races were in harmony with each other, without any fighting or killing. This was an island like a paradise. If the creatures of Heavenly Pattern Island were to return to the Eastern Continent, what would the three sects do? The Eastern Continent's human race and the Fiend race were like fire and water. The Fiend race was forced to leave the Eastern Continent. As for the Eldar in the Eastern Continent, almost all of them were dead. When that time came, the three sects would probably break up. Because once a war between races appeared, there would definitely be an irreparable crack in the relationship between the three sections. It was only a matter of time before they split up and fought to the death. All these years, many humans had died at the hands of the Fiend race, and many Fiend race had died at the hands of the human race. This hatred had accumulated over so many years that it could not be resolved long ago, unless one day, a figure like the Emperor of Heaven appears again and rules over all the races in the world. Perhaps the glory of the ancient times can be restored. Qin Shujian only thought this sentence in his heart and did not say it out loud. The two of them entered the main hall. The fiend race of the Saint God sect had already received the news and sent people to wait there. Brother Xia, a middle-aged man in a yellow robe, looked at Xia Kun, first cupped his hands, then looked at Qin Shujian and said, "This must be the expert from the outside." Xia Kun nodded and said, "This is Qin Shujian, Brother Qin." As he spoke, he also introduced to Qin Shujian, "This is Elder Wu Yi of the Saint God sect. Greetings, Brother Qin." "Greetings, Brother Wu." The two of them cupped their hands and bowed. Wu Yi smiled and said, "After so many years, this is the first time I've seen an outsider come. The ancestor has been waiting for a long time. Brother Qin, please follow me in." "Hey, Brother Qin, go in. Don't leave me behind." Xia Kun called out and said, "When Brother Qin talks with your ancestor, I still have to take Qin Shujian to the Jade Wave sect?" Wu Yi nodded and said, "All right, then Brother Xia, go to the side hall and rest for a while." Immediately, Wu Yi called a disciple of the Saint God sect, took Xia Kun to the side hall to rest, and then took Qin Shujian to meet the ancestor of the Saint God sect. The two of them walked left and right. Wu Yi said, "The ancestor hasn't seen anyone for many years. Brother Qin, When you see him later, don't be too shocked. Moreover, the ancestor has been very approachable these years. If you have anything to say, just say it. I understand, Qin Shujian said. The ancestor of the Saint God sect, like Xia Chao, was an expert from the ancient times. He would not underestimate such a person. When walking into the hall, Qin Shujian found that this hall was the same as the hall of the Fantasy Sea sect, a Tao artifact. Not long after, a side hall had already appeared in their sight. Wu Yi stepped forward and said respectfully, "Ancestor, the person you want to see has been brought here." After saying that, the door of the hall opened. Wu Yi turned sideways and said, "The ancestor is waiting in the hall. Brother Qin, please go in." Qin Shujian nodded, then looked at the dark hall and stepped in. Chapter 538. He walked into the hall. The dim space suddenly changed. Qin Shujian stepped into it as if he had appeared in another world. He could only see the Milky Way under his feet, and the stars in the sky were shining brightly. A Milky Way dragon crawled in the Milky Way, causing the Milky Way to tremble slightly with each breath. With the appearance of Qin Shujian, the dragon opened its tightly closed eyes. At that moment, the already bright Milky Way became even brighter at this moment. The scene that was flowing slowly like a river also came to a standstill. Mustard seed Sumeru. A thought emerged in Qin Shujian's mind, but soon, he overturned his own opinion. The scene in front of him was not as simple as a mustard seed turning into a Sumeru. The entire Milky Way was actually a vast array formation, and the person who set up the array formation was definitely not simple. With Qin Shujian's vision, he could only see some clues. In other words, the array he was in now was set up by a Third Realm Array Grandmaster at the very least. It might even have been set up by a Third Realm Array Grandmaster. Although Qin Shujian was shocked by the scene in front of him, he quickly calmed down. A force that had survived from ancient times. It was not a strange thing to have a powerful array formation, not to mention a Third Realm Array Master. Even a Fourth Realm or Fifth Realm Array Master would not be surprised. Of course, Qin Shujian himself was not sure whether there was a Fourth Realm or Fifth Realm after the Array Master. Seeing the Milky Way dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long, winding and crawling in the Milky Way, Qin Shujian cupped his hands and bowed, saying, "Junior Qin Shujian greets Senior." He did not use his Dharma eyes to look at the Milky Way dragon in front of him. But he could also understand that the other party was probably an expert of the 10th realm of the celestial being realm. It was not impossible for it to be stronger, because on the Milky Way dragon, although Qin Shujian could also feel the decaying aura at the same time, there was a terrifying force hidden in the other party. In front of the other party, Qin Shujian had the illusion that he was facing the human emperor. The galaxy dragon looked at Qin Shujian with its eyes that were like the sun and moon. Although its voice was not loud, it caused the galaxy to tremble. "My name is Star Sage. Are you the human who came from outside?" "Exactly. It's been so many years. You are the first human to find Heavenly Pattern Island. I wonder what the situation is like in the outside world. Will the myriad races win or lose?" Star Saint's tone was inexplicably melancholic as he spoke. Hearing this, Qin Shujian also conveyed what he had said to Xia Chao to the Star Sage verbatim. Half an hour later, Star Sage sighed and said, "The heavenly court has fallen, and the evil devil is indeed difficult to deal with. I have already sensed that the evil devil's aura in the world seems to have become denser. Perhaps it won't be long before the demonic abyss descends again. Now that the myriad races have lost their heavenly courts and immortals, how are they going to resist the attack of the fiend abyss?" After that, Star Sage did not wait for Qin Shujian to reply and continued, "Do you know how the myriad races defeated the fiend abyss back then? It's been a long time since the ancient times. Almost everything about the ancient times in the world has disappeared. It's difficult for this junior to answer senior's question." Qin Shujian shook his head and said, he really didn't know how the heavenly court defeated the fiend abyss. Human Emperor and Marquis Bayun should know. Star Sage glanced at Qin Shujian. After confirming that the other party was not lying, he said, "Then how is the demon race now?" Now that the demon race and the human race coexist in this world, it's not a big deal. Qin Shujian said seriously. Star Sage's huge dragon head nodded, causing the galaxy to tremble. He said, "It's already a blessing that our demon race hasn't been destroyed. Xiao Chao should have told you that we have no way of leaving Heavenly Pattern Island. The other people of Heavenly Pattern Island also have no possibility of leaving the Sea of Death. In addition, we are already living here and have no intention of leaving. However, I am still a member of the demon race. Now that the demon emperor has fallen, the demon race cannot lose its inheritance. Therefore, I have something to ask of you. I wonder if you are willing to help me?" "Senior, please speak," Qin Shujian said in a deep voice. Star Sage opened his mouth and a drop of golden blood flew out from his mouth. With the appearance of the golden blood, the entire galaxy shook crazily, as if it couldn't bear the power of the golden blood. Then, Star Sage's huge dragon claw lightly tapped a few times. Countless mysterious power attached to the golden blood, completely sealing it. Not long after, the golden blood turned into a round stone ball that was a few times bigger than an adult's fist. The stone ball floated in front of Qin Shujian. Star Sage said, "Sealed in the stone is the inheritance of my demon race. I hope that you can help me hand this inheritance to the demon race. However, the inheritance is of great importance. I hope that you can make a law oath. If you violate it, there will be a law that will come and erase you. However, as a reward, I will also give you something corresponding to it." Qin Shujian looked at the stone ball in front of him, then looked at Star Sage and asked, "What is a law oath?" It seems that many things from the ancient times have really disappeared. Even the law oath was not passed down. Star Sage believed Qin Shujian's words a little more. Then, a mysterious fluctuation spread out from Star Sage's body and entered Qin Shujian's mind. Not long after, Qin Shujian finished digesting this information. At this point, he also understood what the law oath was. This oath was based on the laws of heaven and earth. Every action of the person who made the oath would be under the watch of the laws. Once there was a violation of the oath, there would naturally be a law punishment. As for how strong the law punishment was, Qin Shujian felt that he could probably find out by referring to breaking the shackles in the ordinary realm. Looking at Star Sage in front of him, the feeling that this old dragon gave him was much more dangerous than Xiao Chao. If he didn't agree, he was afraid that this matter wouldn't end well. So, Qin Shujian directly held the stone ball and made the law oath according to the information in his memory. Star Sage nodded his head in satisfaction, and his tone became gentler. "You helped me bring out the inheritance of the demon race, so you should be rewarded. Moreover, you are the first person to enter the Heavenly Pattern Island in so many years. If I don't give you some things, it would be a waste." Finished. Star Sage's huge claw moved, and the river of stars immediately split. A dried-up dragon corpse appeared from the river of stars. Following that, the dragon corpse shattered, turning into 6 drops of light golden blood that flew out. Then, it was wrapped by a mysterious force and sent to Qin Shujian. "These are a few drops of essence blood that I left behind in the past. Consuming it can also increase one's cultivation, so I will definitely give it to you." After Star Sage finished speaking, he warned, "However, there is one thing you must pay attention to. Consuming the essence blood requires a strong physique. If you are not at the 7th layer of the heaven-human realm, it is best not to refine it. Otherwise, there is the danger of your body exploding. Only the 7th layer of the heaven-human realm could swallow it. In other words, if someone below the 7th layer of the heaven-human realm swallowed it, their body would explode and they would die." Qin Shujian's expression changed slightly. The 6 drops of essence blood in front of him gave him the feeling that there was a living dragon hidden in each drop of essence blood. Just what kind of cultivation level did the Star Sage in front of him have? Could it be that the 10th layer of the heaven-human realm were also domineering? Qin Shujian could not help but ask, "May I ask, Senior Star Sage, what is your current cultivation level?" Finished. Star Sage did not show any abnormality. Instead, he recalled for a moment and said, "Probably, it should be nirvana." After using the secret method of immortality. To him, Cultivation level was no longer that important. After millions of years, without any progress, no one would remember what kind of cultivation level they were. Qin Shujian was puzzled. Nirvana? Above the heaven-human realm is nirvana, and above nirvana is immortal. Star Sage glanced at him and recalled some things. He said, "The 10 most important things of the heaven-human realm are to become immortal. They must go through the nirvana stage. The nirvana stage is between the heaven-human realm and immortal realm, and their strength is fluctuating all the time. When the nirvana stage is strong, their strength is not weaker than immortal realm. When the nirvana stage is weak, they are only like the 10th layer of the heaven-human realm. These drops of essence blood were left when I was in nirvana. Although they are not at their peak state, they are not comparable to the 10th layer of the heaven-human realm." Hearing that, Qin Shujian nodded in realization. He had always thought that after the heaven-human realm was immortal realm, but he did not know that there was a transitional realm between the heaven-human realm and immortal realm, called nirvana. Suddenly, Qin Shujian thought of the human emperor. If the human emperor was not an immortal, then he should be in the nirvana stage. Otherwise, how could he kill a mighty figure as easily as eating and drinking? Qin Shujian took out 6 spiritual porcelain bottles and then collected the 6 drops of essence blood. When the essence blood fell into the porcelain bottle, the whole bottle trembled crazily, and soon cracks appeared. Seeing that, Star Sage exhaled a breath. The river of stars rolled back, and a mysterious power fell on the porcelain bottle, immediately suppressing the agitated essence blood inside. A spiritual artifact of this level is unable to suppress my essence blood. I've already placed a seal on it, and it should last for about a year. After a year, the seal will break, and my essence blood will break out of the seal and emerge. After doing all this, Star Sage looked a little dispirited. Qin Shujian took the porcelain bottle and the stone ball into the storage ring, and then cupped his hands and said, "Senior, thank you for the treasure. I will definitely give the inheritance of the demon clan to the demon clan." With benefits, Qin Shujian's attitude became a little warmer. Just from the scene just now, he could know what kind of treasure Star Sage's 6 drops of essence blood were. Qin Shujian felt, if he swallowed it now, he might be able to directly break through the current realm. As for Star Sage's words, he also believed in his heart. But Qin Shujian had some confidence in his physique. As for why Star Sage didn't take out the essence blood until now, there were already several demon clan experts in Heavenly Pattern Island. In Qin Shujian's opinion, it should be because the demon clan of Heavenly Pattern Island was too weak. Then the man and the dragon talked for a while, and Qin Shujian got up and left. After leaving the side hall, Qin Shujian was taken away by Wu Yi, who was waiting outside the hall, and found Xia Kun, who was eating. After the two got up and left, Xia Kun took Qin Shujian to the Jade Wave sect. Jade Wave sect. It was also a sect founded by Eldar. Just like the human clan had Xia Chao, and the demon clan had Star Sage, the Jade Wave sect also had an ancient figure overseeing it. It was a giant tree that reached the sky, and it called itself Heaven Piercing. Qin Shujian was sure that this name was given by Star Sage later on in Heavenly Pattern Island, because from the way Xia Chao's expression changed when it heard the name Heaven Piercing. In ancient times, the Emperor Heaven was a supreme expert. Even Heaven Piercing was not enough, let alone Heaven Piercing. Regardless of how stupid Heaven Piercing's name was, the other party also gave him Eldar's inheritance and asked him to bring it out. After Qin Shujian made the oath of the rules, Heaven Piercing also gave the corresponding reward. A porcelain bottle full of holy water, which was the only remaining essence power when the other party's body decayed. Just like the Demon Clan, these supreme treasures were not something that Eldar could bear. As a result, these supreme treasures were like poison that people avoided. As a result, they had been left there for many years without a chance to use them. When Qin Shujian arrived, Heaven Piercing could be considered to have seen many things clearly. After all, so many years had passed, and he had no intention of leaving Heavenly Pattern Island. Of course, he couldn't leave. Fortunately, he brought it here, allowing Eldar to leave behind a trace of his inheritance. After Qin Shujian left, In the main hall of the Jade Wave sect, under the protection of a formation, a towering tree took root. The branches and leaves on the tree had all withered and yellowed, as if it had been dead for a long time. The aura of the demon abyss is approaching again. I'm afraid that a great calamity will happen soon. With the current strength of the myriad races, how can they resist the demon abyss? There's not much I can do. I can only give you what I can. I hope that I can fight for a chance of survival for the myriad races. I only hope that Heavenly Pattern Island will not become the last bloodline inheritance. A deep voice reverberated in the air. Like Star Sage, Heaven Piercing also saw many things. Even though he was now in Heavenly Pattern Island, the familiar feeling that was engraved in his bones still made this Eldar expert feel it. In fact, this Eldar's ancestor even felt an uncontrollable fear and hatred in his heart. It was fear towards the Devil Abyss, and also hatred towards the Devil Abyss. If not for the arrival of the Demon Abyss, how could he be imprisoned here forever, just to preserve the last trace of Eldar's bloodline? But no matter how angry he was, Heaven Piercing had no choice, because the Demon Abyss was too strong. When the myriad races were at their peak, they were attacked by the Demon Abyss, so the myriad races were defeated. Now that the myriad races had entered their weakest stage and were about to be attacked by the Demon Abyss, in Heaven Piercing's heart, he believed that the chances of the myriad races winning were not high. It could be described as small. He had nothing else to worry about. He was just worried about the Eldar who lived in this world. But worry was worry. Heaven Piercing had no choice. He could not leave Heavenly Pattern Island. Even if he could leave, a Nirvana Realm expert would not be able to cause any trouble in front of the Demon Abyss. This was also the reason why Heaven Piercing would hand over the last treasure to Qin Shujian. In his opinion, this was the last thing he could do for the myriad races. After coming to the Saint God sect and the Jade Wave sect and receiving the inheritance and rewards of the two races, Qin Shujian was in a good mood. Because of Xia Chao's words. After Qin Shujian went to the two sects, he returned to the Fantasy Sea sect with Xia Kun. I wonder how many Heaven Realm experts there are in Heavenly Pattern Island? Not many. Xia Kun shook his head and said, My Fantasy Sea sect has 2. The other 2 sects only have 3 each. They are all below the 3rd level of the Heaven Realm. The true foundation of Heavenly Pattern Island is the patriarchs of the various sections. Although he was at the peak of the divine martial realm, his words were filled with disdain for those Heaven Realm cultivators. Qin Shujian really wanted to ask Xia Kun where he got the confidence to make him, a divine martial realm expert, look down on Heaven Realm cultivators. But after thinking about it, he did not ask this question that would destroy their friendship. However, it was just as Qin Shujian thought. Heavenly Pattern Island could be said to be strong, but it could also be said to be weak. If Xia Chao and the others were included, then Heavenly Pattern Island's strength was even more terrifying than the Bright World's human race. 1/10 level Heaven Realm expert and 2 Nirvana Realm experts. With such strength, they could probably hang the human emperor. Yes, of the 3 patriarchs, Xia Chao was the weakest. The other 2 were in the Nirvana Realm. However, to Qin Shujian, it didn't matter what realm the 3 patriarchs were in. Countless years passed. The 3 of them were already weak to the extreme. However, according to Qin Shujian's estimation, the 3 patriarchs should still have a chance to erupt with their peak strength. This was because he felt a hidden power from the 3 of them. If one were to talk about weakness, then the powers that had survived since the ancient times only had 8 Heaven Realm cultivators. Moreover, they did not have a single Saint Realm expert. They were indeed very weak. Qin Shujian also understood now. Why would the ancient powers be afraid of a first-level Heaven Realm green snake? It was because Heavenly Pattern Island was too weak. It was no wonder that Xia Chao did not have any thoughts of leaving Heavenly Pattern Island. With Heavenly Pattern Island's current strength, if they all went out, they would be eaten by vicious beasts before they could go far. The 2 of them returned to the Fantasy Sea sect. Xia Chao was still sitting in the side hall, not moving. You're back. You're back. Qin Shujian nodded. Xia Chao said, That old dragon and Eldar should have given you the inheritances of the 2 races, right? Qin Shujian nodded. he did not deny it. He was also thinking that since the two races had their inheritances, then did the human race also have their inheritances? He can't use the monster race and Eldar's inheritances because he is not a monster race or Eldar. However, he, Qin Shujian, is a human. He can't use the monster race and spirit race's inheritances, but the human race's inheritances are not a problem. Xia Chao saw through Qin Shujian's thoughts and said, "Correct, the two races have their inheritances. Our human race also has our inheritances. Originally, I thought that no one could inherit this inheritance. But now that you are here, you can also take it with you." Senior, after so many years, has Heavenly Pattern Island never given birth to a 7th-level Heaven Realm expert? Qin Shujian asked the question in his heart. After so many years, there was no fighting. Everyone could cultivate in peace. How could there only be a few transcendents overseeing the island? Xia Chao struggled to stand up and said, "The rules of Heavenly Pattern Island are a protection but also a cage. Cultivators at the 4th level of Heaven Realm and above need to control the power of heaven and earth and gradually adapt to the existence of the rules. The rules of Heavenly Pattern Island were left behind by the sovereigns. They are the most tyrannical and cannot be compared to the rules of heaven and earth. Only immortals have the qualifications to comprehend the rules left behind by the sovereigns. Others do not have this qualification." Qin Shujian suddenly understood. After so many years, Heavenly Pattern Island had not given birth to a 4th-level Heaven Realm expert because of the rules of Heavenly Pattern Island. These rules not only protected Heavenly Rune Island, but also restricted its development. Qin Shujian looked at Xia Chao. He had some questions he wanted to ask. However, Xia Chao was the first to speak. He shook his head and said, "The rules of Heavenly Pattern Island exist to preserve the last bit of bloodline inheritance. As long as the bloodline can be preserved, the number of Heaven Realm experts is not a problem. In any case, if a great calamity really comes, it is not something a mere Heaven Realm expert can change." These words, when Qin Shujian heard them, he felt a little stifled. When Xia Chao said, "mere Heaven Realm expert," he felt offended. Qin Shujian coughed lightly and said, "Then where is the inheritance of my human race? Follow me." Xia Chao said calmly. Then, he walked forward shakily, like an old man with one foot in the grave. Qin Shujian slowly followed behind Xia Chao. Looking at Xia Chao's back, a trace of fear suddenly appeared in his heart. What Qin Shujian feared was not Xia Chao, but time. He found it hard to imagine if he would be like this one day when his lifespan was nearing its end. If that was the case, Qin Shujian would rather die in a fierce battle, or simply end his life, than live like this. It was not that he looked down on Xia Chao. It was just that the two of them had different ideals. At this moment, when Qin Shujian's heart was filled with fear, an urgent emotion also emerged. The lifespan of a Heaven Realm expert was limited. 7,000 years was just the blink of an eye. He wanted to break through and become stronger. At least, he wanted to live longer than he was now. In the past, Qin Shujian also hoped to pursue immortality. However, at that time, he was not as urgent as he was now. Now, he had made a decision in his heart. If a Heaven Realm expert cannot live forever, then I will become an immortal. If an immortal cannot live forever, then I will become stronger until I can live forever. The reason why Qin Shujian did this was because he did not want to live like he was afraid of before. Qin Shujian's heart was fluctuating. Xia Chao also did not know. He led Qin Shujian forward, and it didn't take long for them to arrive in front of a palace. The whole palace was a whole, but it was divided into many side palaces. These palaces were all part of a whole. Xia Chao stood in front of the palace and said to Qin Shujian, "This is where the inheritance of our human clan lies." After that, Xia Chao did not do anything. The palace in front of him seemed to have sensed his existence, and the door of the palace slowly opened. Xia Chao stepped in. Qin Shujian only hesitated for a moment before following Xia Chao in. It was the same space array. The difference was, the Holy God sect had evolved a galaxy, the Blue Wave sect had evolved a small world, and the Fantasy Sea sect had evolved a world of nothingness. Xia Chao said, "This is a world of nothingness." It was once left by a strong formation expert of the human clan. It also exists to protect the inheritance of the human clan. Senior, may I know what cultivation level the person who set up this formation is at? Saint. Xia Chao simply spat out a word. Qin Shu Jin was stunned and said, Saint? Above the formation Grand Master is the Saint. P.S. The fourth update, today's total is 24,000. Please vote. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.